All right. Hello, what's going on? Race Brain Podcast. Jack Bowers here. Brakken Kraker's here. My name is Rich Ryan. We are your hosts. Today, we're going to be talking about the Spartan Elite 3K Series, stop number 3 in Palmerton, Pennsylvania, Poconos. Bracken, good news and bad news. You ready?
Let's start with the good news.
Good news. You looked like an absolute beast out there, yoked specimen. Compared to everybody else, you
Best
were just
pump in the game.
You were looking great. Hat game, mod game, everything was
shirt.
money.
Did I show up on camera at all?
A couple times. Oh, you didn't even watch the coverage yet?
No, man.
Okay.
I left the venue and drove straight through.
You didn't even stay for Saturday, huh? You just got back.
Done.
What time did you get home? You must have got home like at 2 in the morning.
4:56.
That's a long day. That's 20 hours of driving, roughly, right? Total.
No, it was 25:05 total.
With there and back.
Oh my god.
Yeah.
Get a plane.
That's good work, man.
Get a plane. What? I'm just G5 it now?
BK, get that jet.
Hop on like Allegiant or Frontier.
The Patreon money.
Get a plane, idiot. All right,
hop on a plane. Yeah.
It was the quickest I could get home.
That's crazy. Yeah.
Bad news is that you completely tanked my fantasy team.
Yeah, I mean, I tanked my fantasy life.
You did beat me in fantasy. So
I meant like my personal fantasy about life of how good I am at things. Okay.
I understand. Is that what you thought about for 11 hours home? Just like where was the brain? Where was the mind? All by yourself? What kind of music? What kind of vibe are we talking about?
Well, I do a lot
of flows.
Usually after a race, I'm in a bad spot. Like I'll rage quit the venue. That wasn't this. I was happy, watched the men's final, and then said, sorry, I got to hit the road. And I was okay because, man, this is going to sound like such a spin job, but it was easy and I was feeling good. And then I was done. And there was no in between. And it wasn't like what I would it's going to sound, I don't want it to sound like an excuse. It didn't feel like OCR fitness killed me. When I slow played the race. I talked with Kirk beforehand. I decided I'm playing this like track rounds. I'm going to get through as easy as humanly possible. If I'm the 30th qualifier, cool, that's fine. So I was last place up the first climb, 3/4 of the way up. There's 16 people in my wave. I was 12th by the top, 10th by the first obstacle, 8th by the second obstacle, 5th coming off the Z-wall. Without trying hard, I was just picking up. Z-wall picked me up a few spots. Carrie picked me up a few. I'm serious. I said it on our podcast, but I was at like 80 to 85% energy effort. And I shut it down coming off the Z-wall. I jumped, hit the bell, looked, going down the hill. In front of me was Rylan, Veerman, Logan, Atkins.
And if you're close to them, you're making the next round.
Well, we were only getting rid of 13 people. So I shut it down completely. I babied my way down the hill, got passed by a person or two, got them back on the rope climb, really slow through the monkey bars, just not using any grip or energy.
It did seem slow.
And it was intentional. I went faster in the finals or in the next round. I didn't skip anything there. I was matching. Yeah, I was matching. I was just going easy. Got to the crawl and I was like 90% of the way through the crawl, totally dead and exhausted, and looked up and I was halfway through the crawl. And I never recovered. I got out of it feeling like I had just done the death march and my arms were gone from like taking too much effort on my shoulders. And it was terrible. So I cruised through the rest of it. I was already through. It was safe. And I tried the same thing the next round, but going even easier with a concerted effort to crawl better. And so I got there even easier and cracked even worse, like hip flexors cramping, glutes starting to, like, it was just exposed this horrible weakness in the middle of it. But if you would have asked me halfway through the first round, I had this thought like, I'm easy top 10 today and I'm not trying yet. I felt good. And then I was horrendously exposed. So like the drive home, the ultimate thought was, if this is Palm Beach, it's an entirely different story. Now, every person left feeling that way, except Kempson and Lindsay.
Probably.
Every single person hated their life in the middle of this thing. So everyone had that thing. Well, if this wasn't here, I don't know what would have happened, but all I know is I only got like a 3-minute taste of racing and it felt easy. And then I looked like just dog poop for the rest of it. So that's my take. I was horribly exposed on that never ending like Cirque du Soleil crawl.
It's pretty interesting the way that they went about creating this course. And I don't really want to skip to this now because I want to talk about the actual race itself. Mm-hmm. But basically what they did with the double sandbag in Big Bear kind of surprised everyone with this extremely hard station, that obstacle that changed the race. That was the entire story coming out of Big Bear. And they just did that, and they caught flack, and they made changes, and then they popped up this absurd barbed wire crawl that we haven't seen. We've never seen a barbed wire crawl like that at Palmerton. We knew it could potentially be up, kind of had an idea of where it was, but usually it's just grass and a regular distance. And this is just something that they came up and sprung on people.
Yeah. And so everyone, it's not an excuse because we all had to go through it. Like everyone had to handle it, and some people had the physicality and functional fitness to survive it. Some could weaponize it, and one could do it the whole time. But most people had to pick, do I race before, during, or after that? Really, Kempson was the only one who could race the whole time on the men's side. Even someone like Logan, who was the best in the first round, and it wasn't even close, cracked bad in the final eventually.
That's also heat related and humidity, it seemed.
I mean, it could be,
still
but
the same for everybody. Yeah.
So I don't know what would have happened, but I would have been in a much more negative space taking the type of beating I took had it been racing the whole time.
If you were a minute 7 behind at Palm Beach first today, it's a different story. That mentally, that's what you're saying.
I mean, the time didn't mean anything to me because I was trying to go as slow as possible. It's just I thought I'd be able to work through the crawl, and trying my hardest, I couldn't. The second round, I told myself, I've said it before, it's a decision. Make the decision. And I just couldn't go any faster. And it was so destructive to my body. I came out just smashed. So I don't know. I couldn't have done anything really different. I could have maybe got to the final had I got out hard in the semis, but I would have been horrendous in the final. Yeah. So I failed that test badly, and it was embarrassing. But I don't feel bad about my fitness. I feel bad that I have this gaping hole in the middle of my fitness, which is the same as like all the other things that generally hurt my fitness is just way worse than usual.
Chris Marone and Adam Beach, they finished 13th, 14th overall. They were seated higher than that heading into the finals. Both of them messaged me after and said that they basically sold out in order to reach the finals. So I think that's probably what it would have taken you to do.
Yeah. And I could have decided I'm going to be the first to the top of the climb in the semis, and I'm going to bomb the downhills. I didn't run a downhill. I chopped the whole time, saving my legs for the final. And then I didn't make it to the final. So it was terribly frustrating, but the drive home was positive. It's like, that's not the test I thought I was signing up for. So like I did terrible on it, but I didn't do bad on the thing I thought I would. So I don't know. It's very convoluted, but it almost changes nothing for me other than I have to address like the areas that failed on me on the crawl.
Mm-hmm. Rich, you mentioned that the double sandbag was the game changer in Big Bear, and I looked it up back then. It was like a minute 15, minute 20 for the fastest people there. And I took a couple splits on Kempson and some of the fastest crawlers here, and it was about a minute 15 to a minute 20. So duration wise, it was
Kempson got through in a minute 20?
Minute 15, minute 16. I saw Kempson on one of the splits.
Now, I know second lap, he put something like 20, 25 seconds on Atkins on the crawl.
That could have been the one that I timed. I just remember starts.
That's outrageous. Okay. They were
sending
I thought it was
women through people close to 2 minutes.
Oh, it did. It took over 2.
Yeah.
They were sending women through the day of to test it. Some people from the next day or whatever, and they were going 3.5 to 4 minutes through.
Oh my God.
I haven't taken my split, but I guess I was closer to 3 than I was to 2.
So Jack, you're saying Kempson's barbed wire split's about the same as his 400 split?
No, you're saying it is.
It was also, we can move on from it, but it was weird because you never saw people in it. The berms, the moguls were so high that the first time through I was following Gil through
Matt
it.
Gill.
And he was never farther than 10 feet ahead of me. And I only had sight on him like 50% of the time. And so I got to that one in 6th, I think, and I came out in like 11th or 12th, and I didn't see anyone ever pass me. You were in your own little world picking through. It was so hard to get under because it was high in the low points, but then it would cross over the mid and the top points. And so it was just a lot of up and down. And so you had to sight the whole time. I came out in the semifinals and looked around like, where are all these people coming from? You didn't even know there were 7 people next to you. You couldn't feel any of it. So you could race someone in your line and that was it. It was very strange. Where in a race do you get passed by 5 or 6 or 7 people and not know it?
You don't.
Right. Teeter tuber.
Yeah,
you can at least hear that. Anyways, let's move on.
Well, I mean, overall,
I'm fine.
It was fun. I'm glad. Good. I wasn't asking, but I'm glad. And
yes, it feels a negative headspace coming home in the drive.
Probably not good. But when you have that thought of what else could I have done, then you can't be too upset, right? It's like that's how you want to leave most races. That's how I feel like I want to leave most races. If I'm like, I did everything I could in that race and the outcome is what I got, then that's fine.
Yeah. I feel like I didn't race. I got warmed up. I got ready to. And then an atomic bomb dropped on my lap and I just like zombie walked the rest of it. My big regret was not going to Palm Beach. Realizing that afterwards that was the time to go test this fitness out. This was not for me.
This is why I think for a different race, you should do a couple of decas instead of just hope you can do one and qualify for Worlds, for instance, because you need to test it out. You've got 2 coming up.
Well, in DECA, it won't be like, all right, 1,500 meters of ski this time.
That's true.
Yeah.
It's known test. But
what I thought they were going to do, sorry, Jack, is they didn't have the wire strung the day before. I thought they were going to string like the first third of it and make us run the rest. And then after the race, string the rest, because we looked at it and thought that's way too big. They won't do that in a race because that'll be. And that would have been a game changer for a lot of people. I don't know what that would have meant for everyone, but when we saw the whole thing, I realized this is going to be horrendous.
Yeah, Brakken, I saw you only 2-3 seconds at a time. The camera people didn't stick on you. I asked them to follow you one by one, but they didn't end up doing it. But
that mod camera.
Yeah, it was very brief when we saw you, but you looked very tentative going, but also shorthanded going across the rig. Like you saw some other people attack, but
that was lap 1 though, right?
I think lap 2, because you were wearing the mod shirt with the backwards.
For both.
That was his kit all the way through.
Okay, I thought you changed for some reason.
I was too sticky. I couldn't even take my singlet off. It was too tight.
Gotcha. But my thought, just seeing you in that brief moment right there, because a couple people who I wasn't expecting from your heat were ahead of you there. I was like wondering to myself, is it affecting Brakken? Is he thinking, oh, OCR's just passed me? But after your explanation so far, it kind of seems like you haven't really given up yet on that mentality that you can still be a contender. But just at that brief moment, the 3 seconds that I saw you on the course, I was wondering like, oh, is Brakken thinking this right now? But I think
for sure I was.
Clarified it.
Because if this is the new normal, I'm obsolete. I can't do that. I've never been that type of person. Like every crawl in history, other than one time that I committed in a race in Montana, I get dropped on the crawls. Stadiums are high and I can bear crawl, but when I actually have to get low and get down, that's really hard for me. I think I pinch my diaphragm the whole time. I come out just like sick to my stomach and gas. I don't recover on them. But what I felt early on was encouraging. So it almost settled nothing. It's like, all right, my season's done. I'm not going to qualify for this thing. I understand that. I'm not going down to Mexico. So 3K is not happening the rest of this year. But it doesn't change the fact that I'm still a believer that I'll do something of note again at some point.
Yeah.
Let's go.
So yeah, if you had the opportunity to race in Abu Dhabi, would you for 3K after seeing this? Because that's going to be a completely different type of race as well. Just trying to see where you're at.
I'll give the short answer because we all talked about this after the race and in between races. There's a lot of conversation amongst the athletes there. I'd be hesitant to, because in such a short race, if one bomb gets dropped on you in the middle of it, that's the end of your day. Like, what if they decided to do this on a sand dune, which was a lot of people were saying, like, will I spend my own money to fly to Abu Dhabi? I might get a flat race, or I might get sand dunes, or I might get sand crawls. The fact that something could be there, like the carry or the crawl or something that you don't know what it's going to be, and you no one prepared for this. That
Right.
type of crawl, that you either had something that you did in training that allowed you to do well, or you didn't. That's not worth gambling on at a world championship. So if I could get in, I'd have a hard time saying no to it, but it would be really disconcerting knowing in the back of your head, there's a really good chance they've done it 2 out of 3 times. There's been this thing that was the race that you didn't know was going to be the race.
This isn't Tahoe where it's like, are we going to start up the smaller climb or the big climb? You're still going to do both of them. You know exactly what you're going to get at some point. But yeah, is it a sand dune? Is it on a flatter part? Like, what's going to be the layout? That's a huge variable.
And if it was at the old venue, you could look at it and say, this is what's going to happen. They have that massive sand dune. They're not going to not use it. So it's going to be a 1K loop, but you're going to spend half your time moving at a half mile per hour up this sand dune. So then you would just say, I'm going to spend 50% of my training time ensuring that that thing goes well. But without that there, you'd be hard pressed to commit to that in training, but you'd be hard pressed to be confident knowing that maybe they can do that to me. So without clarity on what the test is, it would be hard to commit to traveling over there. So I guess that's my convoluted answer.
Makes sense.
I don't know if anyone would want to commit.
They did do like a month early reveal for this map for Palmerton, so people had an idea. So I think, given that it's an international flight, whether you're from Europe or North America, whatever, I think it would be to the athlete's benefit to at least give them a heads up before a long international flight sometime in like late October what it's going to be.
Yeah,
now,
but
I did
crawl
map, practice.
Yeah, that's true.
I did uphill crawl practice during my intervals and sims for this, but it was like 20 seconds of really fast grass crawling.
Right.
Yeah, you don't have the topography that on the course map showing that it was going to be this. So yeah.
Jack, what were our fantasy scores? You got them there?
I destroyed you guys. I think 48 for Rich, 47 for Brakken, and I was like high 20s, 27, I think.
Yeah, it was super not good. And I knew it as it was happening. I was like, oh,
super fantastic.
I was like, this really kind of sucks. BK tanking his race so he can get that 1 point on me. So I hope you're happy with your decision. That's great. Also, Jack tried to make me the laughing stock of the OCR prediction community by getting me last place in his contest. And it was erroneous. I have people texting me being like, dude, how did you get last? I was like, how could I possibly got last? I don't understand. But Jack he was pulling people in he was just taking complete
random number generator for you.
It was abuse of power.
Totally.
Abuse of power. Yep.
But I did a protest to Jack's credit. My protest
earned him 5 more points, and now he's like 5th to last. So
you didn't have Veerman results on your protest.
I didn't have Kempson on the one that because I did one with Kempson.
I was saying Veerman got DQ'd.
That was not great for me.
Tried to protest a little bit and then gave up on it because it wasn't happening. And
oh yeah, you were there. You saw what happened.
He was in my heat. He was ahead of me on the rope.
Could you see that? Did you see him miss?
I didn't witness it. Ryland did. What he told me afterwards, and Tyler's about the nicest, most honest kid you're going to find. He said, I climbed to the top, I swiped it, and my fingertip grazed my bell, and I thought that didn't look good. So I hit it for it again on my way down and missed it twice.
Oh,
I touched it, but I got to the bottom, and I'm pretty sure they had seen my 2 misses on the way down. And they said, you didn't touch. And I said, I did. And I'm going to keep going. And then they got to the finish line. He was informed he was DQ'd. And then he said, well, I did touch it. Do we have like video or anything? And they said, we have 2 witnesses that saw you miss multiple attempts on the bell. And he said, I wasn't going to fight it because Tyler's a good, nice kid. He wasn't going to fight it. But he said, I'm fairly certain they just saw my 2nd and 3rd attempts to make it look better. But I touched it, but it was as weak of a touch as you could get.
That happened to Cody Moat. They had one race at Aspen, maybe 2019, and he did monkey bars or rig or something like that. got to the end of it, just completely missed it. But he thought he like lightly grazed it, and then some volunteer was like, "I didn't hear a bell." And then after the race, he's like, "I'll just accept the penalty," even though you know that he knew he made it, and he got a 10-minute penalty, lost $1,500 or whatever the Mountain Series title was, but it was a flat 10-minute penalty, just like this.
Veerman probably would have done pretty well.
The next day, if you saw what he did in the Super, he was ready to race.
Balin Bean was right there doing work though, right? That were head to head, basically.
3 minutes.
3 minutes.
Well, I think Balin was
with him for a
ahead
decent chunk.
Yeah. Still, to be even with Tyler at all is pretty solid. Jack, could you just give us a little bit of a reminder of how you score because I'm gonna probably complain about the way you score, because
that's fine. Yeah.
If it's not in my favor, I think it's wrong. So
in the fantasy thing, or
no fantasy?
Our
fantasy,
league?
I'm locked in. For the prediction contest, Yancey Camp, Race Brain, ORM, Jack Bauer.
Yeah. So if you get, I'd have to double check that. I'm almost positive this is what it is. If you get a name in any order, so if you pick Atkins to win, but he got second place, he's on your ballot at some point, you get 5 points. So automatically you go 10 for 10, which no one's actually ever done. You're going to get 50 points because you got all 10 names on there. And then if you correctly, in the exact order, guess first place correctly, you get 5 points. If you correctly guess second place, 4 points, 3, 2, 1, all the way down to fifth. So you just kind of get a little bonus for getting him in the exact place, but
so basically it's a top 5 prediction, like just anybody in your 5, you get points for them being in the top 5.
Yep.
Okay.
Yeah.
Because because I was talking with Matt and he had Rylan, and I was like, oh, that's going to be terrible for you, but it's not. Like, he doesn't get penalized more for
if you look at the list
way off.
At the top, I always list exact order, any order, and pretty much the people who have 8 or 9 in any order do way better than the people who correctly got only the winners, for instance, and a couple more people sprinkled in. So it's more about like overall consistency. You're like, okay, well, there was a 0.2 second difference between first and second, or second and third, whatever. They're still in your list. You pretty much had the right idea. You just get a little extra bonus if you got the exact order for them. But it's more
picking to show rather than place.
Okay.
Yep.
Okay. That's actually
it's weighted more for show, but you also get credit for place a little bit.
Okay.
Yeah.
Never mind. That's good.
Yeah, it's fair.
Except when you freaking give me all these.
Except when your name's Rich.
Yeah. Except when you take my ballot and just throw it in the trash.
You probably submitted it incorrectly. It's not that's 100% user error right there.
Nope.
So I'm curious, because I was there and I experienced it, and then I watched the final, and we'd watched the other prelims a little bit as they came in. What did it look like through the screen? Because in person, and we all talked about it, the general consensus was this is going to be the most boring, unimpressive thing to watch. Did it come through that way?
No more than any other OCR event.
So it didn't look worse than Palm Beach in terms of competitiveness or excitement?
We had really good cameras the whole time, so I think
cameras were great. Cameras were great. In terms of competitiveness, I was excited. I liked watching the prelim. I kind of like the prelims better than the final. Honestly, I think
if you make it
more exciting.
3 by 1,000 or 3, if you want 5K total running, like 1,000, 3K, that's 5K. Just make it 3 by mile. That would be it
was exciting because of how stacked the finals were for both men and women. That I was excited to potentially see groups of 3 to 5 people racing. Things kind of stretched out the way that they do and the way that they have. So it was, and there was really nothing compelling happening.
Mm-hmm.
The best
so maybe you're right.
The best race so far was definitely Big Bear. The best coverage so far in terms of video quality was Palmerton. So I think you kind of had you had all the people in the race, but because there was such a separator in the barbed wire crawl, it was less compelling. You knew how the finish was going to be. Like Lindsay just took off lap 2 and she was the best crawler. You knew it was going to be like that. Kempson, he got ahead. Atkins struggled on the laser pistol after lap 1. It's like, well, there's no challenge for who's going to win anymore at this point. That's what it looked like.
Jack,
and it's fine if there's,
Jack
if
said
there's domination, that's totally fine, but it just wasn't as compelling as a story.
Jack said it was best coverage because of video quality, but he's out here banging his chest because he was commentating on that.
That's right.
He was
I
like,
said video
"That was-
quality. I didn't.
Nah,
I didn't
know
say
what you-
commentary.
I heard what you said, but I know what you meant.
Here's the implication.
Yeah, dude.
Implicate. Okay.
The best.
Brakken probably thinks the other two are the best because he was in the booth, right?
No doubt.
I thought coverage of Palm Beach was choppy.
Yeah.
I think.
Yeah, Rich, you're the neutral party right here. Brakken raced. I've raced in the past. We've both done cover. You've got no skin in the game because
none.
You just keep turning them down. What's your ranking so far for performance? Regardless,
in terms of races, like what did I find most exciting, or like what I found the best product?
Review the races so far. We've had 3 of them. Watching, competition, layout, whatever, coverage.
Oh, this is a good question, Jack. Coverage. I don't listen. I don't listen to you guys talk when you guys are out there. So we can take that.
That's not what you told me. After Big Bay, you're like, you were making some points, BK.
You and Magita were cooking.
Brakken, you know what this means? That means that he probably listens to the running public if he can't keep his story straight.
Check the numbers. It's not in there.
We're gonna look up IP addresses.
We tapped his line. He's not tuning in.
I've got his IP address with the submission on the ballot. I'll just give you it. You can cross-reference it. Boom.
You're not gonna get nothing out of it. It was the first race. It was so new that I found it pretty compelling, right? And I was dialed into that. You were racing, BJ was racing. I was pretty dialed in on that. In terms of, so I was like kind of happy how that turned out. I don't remember what the coverage kind of looked like. Honestly, I don't remember being
even though
choppy.
It was 5 minutes outside of city limits. That was some of the worst reception I've ever seen. It was crazy. You wouldn't expect it, but even just making a casual phone call, it just kept getting dropped. And we're in a big city park, so I don't
remember. I don't even remember.
Can't expect that
bad.
to happen. Yeah.
But, and then Big Bear was fun because of how different it was, and then kind of the juxtaposition between the first and second race. I was like, okay, cool. I kind of see what they're doing here. And this most recent one was fun because of the names. BK was out there looking yoked, and then a whole bunch of really strong athletes all the way through. So it was really fun to see what was going to happen. I just don't think I really like the 3K part. I like the 1Ks.
I'll tell you what, before the race, it was electric. There was an atmosphere there because everyone was so excited at how many monsters were there.
Yeah.
Every person said something of the variation as you were walking in, like, oh, you're here. Oh, he's here. It's like, this feels like 2018 Worlds, or this feels like 2015 Worlds, or everyone kept saying this feels like a world championship field. Killian came in. He's like, we haven't seen any of this since 2017 World. And Atkins said something, and everyone's comment was, this is a world championship field. And then it got really negative after the first round. I've never been around such negative talk amongst OCR athletes.
Because of the barbed wire?
Yeah. Yeah. And then after the final as well.
Was that the single complaint for the most part? Because we've had a different layout every single race. You didn't have heavy carry at Palm Beach. You had a double carry.
There were 3 complaints.
Yeah, go ahead.
The first there were some compliments. People like the rounds. And I'm talking, so I talked to people who placed top 3. I talked to people who made the final and shouldn't. I talked to people who missed the final and shouldn't. And then people who just were there not expecting to do anything. Like I got the whole, like some titans of the sport where this was shared by everyone. Laser pistol is dumb. No one thought this adds to it. Everyone thought if we do well, it wasn't because of talent or effort or fitness. And if we don't do well, it's not because of that either. Like someone who made the podium was like, I just lost like 12 seconds on this thing. And where am I going to find that back on this course? Like it was too big of a penalty to make up for, or it was irrelevant. So the people did not like the pistol one bit. They just, like, we were testing out beforehand. Like, what is this? There's no recoil. There's not a skill to it. It's just hold it. And some of them don't seem to shoot in the exact right spot. And because you can't see a dot where it lines up, you don't know where you're missing. And so it's basically like, keep moving it until it lights up that you're on the board, and then keep moving it until you get one. So I didn't realize you didn't see anything like up here. So that's weird.
They're
Second thing was
real quick. I will say they are calibrated correctly. Like my brother's a police officer, and he came out to Big Bear with me, and he shot them every single time, nailing it. He's like, this does aim the way that a gun should. So just
and I believe that, but they had 2 set up to practice on. In one of them, I was out in 3 to 4 shots every time, and the other one, it took 2 to 3 shots to find the bullseye. And this was practice, fresh.
No,
so I'm not saying it's wrong. It could have been me, but on one, every time I was the same, and the other one, every time I was differently the same.
Yeah.
So we can even discard the accuracy if we want, but people liked the rounds.
Your point about the laser pistol not being popular. Totally.
No one enjoyed it.
Were you asking leading questions? However, Brakken, were you like,
I didn't ask questions. This just came up in conversation.
These are pretty dumb, right?
People were not shy about getting things off their chest.
No, they never are regarding Spartan.
No. But people that don't always do that were saying things because it was just so new. I guess it was reacting to it. People almost to a man really liked the rounds. They thought it added something to it. And instead of early on, we had talked that someone could blast the first round and you might have people that are good not make the final. It was almost the opposite, where you had 2 rounds to prove you belong in the final. And so the good guys are like, I can cruise a little bit. And the people who think they belong and are going to go for it had 2 chances to, like, even if I messed up a little on the first one, I can sell out on the second one and make the final. The rounds worked, but almost 100% of the people said the same thing. Why not just keep it another 1 lap in the final? Because then even if they drop a crazy double carry or a crazy crawl, if you only have to do it once, you can blow the tubes out on it. If you have to do it 3 times, it turns into a plotting mess. So people really were not looking forward to the final. I would say over half the people in the final didn't want to take the start line. Knowing those prelims were terrible, and now we have to do it 2 more times through that crawl. So they wanted the competition of 1 more lap, just let it loose. No one got to it wasn't like coast, fire. It was coast, continue coasting because you're surviving.
Yeah.
So people were looking forward to, let's have 1 lap and then let's really rip it out and see who can hammer this thing. Otherwise, we're still just going to flounder. Those were the big takeaways on course.
The heats. Oh, go ahead, Jack.
I was just going to mention, I think rounds are fantastic. I've liked them both of the other 2. And it's okay that we see upsets. It shouldn't always have the predictable people make it. You look at the 1500 or the 800 qualifying rounds. Sometimes really good people just don't advance in the rounds. And it's a shock. And a couple people end up getting lucky, and maybe they'll finish dead last, but they still made the final. And it gives hope to like the regular people. I from a track and field perspective, I really enjoy the rounds.
I didn't think I would, but it was good. And people all seem to feel that same thing.
And that, at least on the men's side, it was full. And the women's side, it had more participants than it's had. So chances were that the right people would be in that final because there was enough slots. Like
you had 41 or 42 men and like
43.
mid-20s for women. So yeah, basically full for the men. And we were talking ahead of time. It's like, Brakken, are you 10th or you 11th or and then it turned out, even more people show that they're 21st. Really good racers right now. It was stacked. No guarantees for anybody to make the finals.
Yeah.
Top half, above average, or no, right about average. A little bit above average.
Little above. He was in the teens. So, yeah.
No, in the I was 18 in the prelim, and then the semi I was 21.
Oh, okay. Gotcha.
24th?
21. I think
21. So no, not top half. Anyway,
right. 21, yeah.
There were some really positive people there. Oh yeah, look at that.
A little bit above average, dude.
A lot of really positive people there who didn't have good things to say about it. I won't come back. I won't try it again. Why I'm not traveling for this. But there are a couple easy changes they could make, I think, to get everyone back. One would be to go to a 1 lap final, or make the race shorter in duration and do 2 laps for all the rounds.
Let's talk about the races themselves for a little bit. We're kind of dancing around that. We haven't gone into like the actual results. Then I really want to do a deep dive on some of these things that we think we could kind of tinker with, or some of the main objections that, again, we've kind of danced around a little bit already. Well, let's talk about the actual races.
So facts versus hypothetical right now. We're switching to fact mode.
Let's go facts, baby. Jack, this is all you.
Yep.
Jack's
facts.
Official, factual.
Jack's facts. Just rhyme.
What we want to start, men or women?
Start women.
Let's start with women. We're talking about a lot of dudes. We got a dude on here who's out here racing. So on the women's end, I'm just gonna read out the final. Lindsay Webster took the win. Chris Rogloski second. Ida Matilda Steensgård third. Alex Walker ended up fourth.
Yep.
Okay, because the results look kind of funny on, like, Manuel wasn't in the results.
He's not on the results anymore. He's fourth, or he's third.
He was third. And was Balin? I thought he finished like fifth.
10th. He was fifth after the first lap, and then he lost a couple places.
Yeah, he must have missed some stuff.
Even after the second, I think he was still.
I thought so too. I thought he was right behind TVT.
Because I was cheering for him.
He was close. Yeah.
And then suddenly gone. And we couldn't see. We couldn't see. There were berms or like trees in between everything. So you actually couldn't even see across the course. You had to move over and you couldn't see the top.
Samuel Adair, I think, got in there.
Anyway, he went in and suddenly was gone and we didn't know what happened.
He's just laying belly up in a puddle in the barbed wire crawl. We're on the women still. Yanka Popova was fifth. Allie Tippett was sixth. Lauren Week seventh. Lauren Griffith finished eighth. Very happy to see Lauren Griffith make the final. After last time, I thought she kind of caught a raw deal. So love that she was out there in an awesome field. this women's field. This women's field was about as stacked as we've seen any Spartan race since, I don't know. When do you think we've seen them as good? Yes, it's like Tahoe.
Every single woman top 6, and then Lauren, of course, has world championships under her name. Top 6 have had national series podiums in the past. So that's loaded. That's a 6-headed monster, 7-headed realistically, and Lauren isn't a slouch herself. So that was solid. She looked like she was having some issues with her hands in the finals. So I don't know if were any of the implements really hot, Brakken. I know it's a pretty steamy day. Okay, no. wasn't sure if that
but
led to it.
Running through 3 waves of men, 3 waves of women, things got coated with sweat, and I don't know how much you could see, but the bottom of each mogul had standing mud or water in it. And it was almost impossible to stay dry. In fact, Rich Ryan, I took those receiver gloves out just so I could get through the crawl with that on. Then I'd take them off and stuff them in just so my hands weren't so coated. But everything got coated.
So Lindsay wins.
Maybe not coated, streaked.
Streaked. Yeah. Okay. Lindsay,
I don't want to say it was a mud fest because it wasn't.
Don't at me. Don't at Brakken about the mud fest situation, because it was just a streakiness of mud around.
Rich is going crazy. He just wants to get this sentence off.
I'm just trying to say this sentence. I don't really know. I mean, it's not. I feel like we're back to where we were last year. Like, Lindsay wins. We haven't seen her in a little bit. It's not like her fitness was that far out of place. I mean, realistically, her last race was what, 6 months ago? It wasn't a huge hiatus.
December, 8 months. Yeah.
Yeah. Like, but she's the best that's ever done it. Were we surprised?
No.
Once I saw the course, you knew. I think that she doesn't win Palm Beach, and she might not win Big Bear. But no one else is winning this course.
If Nicole's at Palm Beach, she's not beating Nicole at that race.
I don't know.
This course, these climbs, because of the crawl, became monumental. Atkins was power hiking.
I saw that.
It changed your world in ways that you didn't expect. And no one's better under duress up and down the mountains than her. And she was obviously going to be a better crawler than Chris. Just from frame alone.
Frame alone, yeah. But Chris is such a good mover. She's such like interesting ways to find lines, and her mobility is really good. But yeah, just frame wise, I mean, Lindsay's a little bit smaller, but not that much smaller.
Yeah. I mentioned in the broadcast that Lindsay's been doing a lot of scrambling and with their sky running. I was thinking that might have actually helped out a little bit for this low crawl. Used to getting on all fours and just moving around. I know it's not the same, but she kind of had been practicing indirectly.
My take on this was the fast cadence people did much better on the crawls. The long movers did not do as well because it was a ton of time under tension moving. And Chris is a long, fluid mover, and Lindsay is a pitter-patter mover. That I don't know how across the board that was, but it seemed to play out on the guy's side.
I think if that was like a scientific statement, that would hold up. Pitter patterers,
Science.
Pitter patters, yeah.
pitter patterers.
High correlation right there.
But I mean, like, yeah, Lindsay looked good. She looked relaxed. It didn't seem like. How did she look when she finished? I mean, did it seem like she would put everything out there, or was she in such control that she could have done another couple loops?
I think she and Kempson both could have done another lap.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Everyone else was smashed. Chris maybe wasn't smashed. Everyone else was smashed.
Chris was like defeated personally, it seemed.
Yeah.
Just because of the condition. No, she physically could have kept going. I just don't think she was having fun. So she's like, yeah, this kind of draining, it seemed.
Are we going to see Lindsay lose ever again? Or is it
Nicole,
just, or is she
we had
just
the
going
chance.
to?
Nicole could have shown up, but she wasn't going to win this one.
No way.
Yeah.
It would take a person and a course. It would take like Emma in slow. Or Emma in
a 10K on the track.
Yeah, I mean, something where the predominant skill is very runnable terrain. Even Emma in like a runnable mountain.
Ida beat her in the 3K though.
I guess that's true. But yeah.
But is she going to lose where she doesn't screw up, where she just gets beaten straight up?
There's only one engine in the sport that can do it currently.
Emma.
And that's Emma. And is she in the sport right now?
Emma has beaten her a couple times in sky races this year, so like she gets in there
every time.
Yeah,
she's never lost to Lindsay outside of OCR.
That might be true. Yeah,
but just with the ascension of Chris, like I figure at one point, like if Lindsay starts stalling, Chris keeps ascending. I was hoping that this could be that day. I mean, Brakken, you took Chris number 1 overall, thinking that potentially that she could have had a win over Lindsay in this race. But like as good as Chris is and how good she is getting,
not in this course.
Yeah, but I mean, like
Big Bear, I think she would have beat her
potentially.
If you had the weight of Big Bear carries, I think that would have changed things a lot.
Did you guys see Samuel Hebert? Like grabbed one, put it on his shoulder, grabbed one in his hand, started running, and just like swung it up to his shoulder. Yeah. Like it was like
that's a strong guy. Yeah.
But like he is definitely strong. But like, what are these sandbags? What do we got? These
they're Monopoly bags.
Yeah,
they were legit 45 pounds, maybe 40.
Yeah, there we go, 40.
But a couple of people were talking that Ryland did that round 1 because there was just a cluster at the bags. We can get to it later, but the course layout wasn't conducive to not having bottlenecking. And so when you got there, we'd already bottlenecked on the Irish table. I don't know if they got much camera on that. There were only 2 sections of the Irish table was really just the hurdles.
Yeah.
It's like wider at the top,
but it was taller. Yep. But there were 2 sections, and one was for women. You weren't allowed to go over it. So it was like a 10-foot section with 15 people going through. You just couldn't.
The first obstacle too, right?
Fit it. And then the second was the bags. And instead of lining it up a little longer, it was like a 6x6 clump.
You had a pallet.
Yeah. So it was, not even a 6x6 clump. So it was bad. So Ryland just grabbed 2 farmers carry started and then got them up as he went. And so people started doing that, people who had grip to spare.
Huh.
And I do think the intention of having the Irish table that early was go ahead, try to burn out on that first climb, see what happens. It was probably kind of to lure some athletes.
I think we're giving them too much credit.
Agreed.
Could be.
Yeah, that'd be great if they're that detail oriented about every single. Like, what would happen if someone came out hard? What if it went easy? What if it was a bottleneck?
They would have said that in the briefing. They would have been like, first obstacle is bottlenecked. You got to make your choice if you're getting there or not. That would have encouraged it. There wasn't a word about that.
They're like, we needed 9. Yeah. This one was easy to move. We put it there.
I do want to talk later about how to make a better flow to it.
Done.
So I think they can fix this, but not now.
So Ida coming in 3rd. And she was kind of alone in that final. I mean, she went out hard with Lindsay and Chris was there as well, but then everything kind of started to stretch out a little bit. Alex coming in 4th. It's a pretty good result. Didn't seem like she was in it that much in the final.
Do you know what happened?
I don't know what happened.
Her hair got stuck in lap 1.
Oh, really? Because she seemed like she was
Yeah,
way
because
back.
she was like, even though she wasn't in Lindsay or Chris or Ida's heat in the preliminary rounds, she put up times that were comparable to him.
Yeah, she was
And
running great.
yeah, and that was what I was looking for four athletes to really give a run for it, but her hair got stuck in lap one and multiple times throughout the day. So
Dang.
that definitely hurt her.
Because yeah, fourth is a good result in this field.
Yeah.
I mean, we thought she
Yeah.
would do well,
She
but
also timed out on the laser pistol, so that didn't help after getting her hair stuck. So
somebody's just can you if you threw it, like, is it attached to anything? Or could you like throw it all the way down the mountain? Now you could just chuck that thing.
Yeah, you could punt that.
I'm surprised we didn't see a timed out on the third lap. Send it all the way. Send it to Nazareth down 191. You know. Then Jakub
Local
Popova finished.
knowledge.
I got you, dog.
You don't know. Yeah.
Got you. Ali Tippett was second last time, finishing sixth here.
She could have had another fifth. They got off the rig at the same exact time at the end, and it was
Pistol.
whoever shot the laser pistol first.
Yeah, pistol made a difference, and without such a heavy sandbag, how much do you think the weather played into some of these results, Bracken? Like, was it affecting everybody, or were some people who may have been in like more dry, arid type climates having a harder time?
I don't know. It sounds funny to say because I did so horrendously, but that kind of weather doesn't affect me in short races, so I didn't notice it.
Beast, who cares?
And so I didn't think like this is so bad I'm going to talk to people. The weather wasn't, people would just comment like this is hot or I can't stop sweating, but no one was like I can't race again because it's too hot. Not that I heard of. It was warm up sucked, obviously, and then right away after it was scramble for any shade possible. But people had their system down. People were doing what they needed to do. I didn't hear anything about that. Okay. Doesn't mean it didn't affect them, but I didn't hear anyone talking about it.
Okay. It must have just been a matter of the sandbag versus barbed wire crawl for Ali. That seems to be like the main difference in her result here.
Let's also give Ali credit because it was a much heavier sandbag carry and you had less competition last time, and she still managed to hang it to everybody. Actually, Big Bear was pretty competitive on the race.
Yeah, I wouldn't say there's less competition. Yeah. It's almost the same
You're interchangeable. Lindsay and Nicole, Ida's still there. Rose was out. Alex is there. So yeah, okay, it's pretty comparable.
Here's what I think. How awesome is it for her that we're talking like, oh, was this disappointing or not?
I was just thinking that.
If Big Bear wasn't here, this was her best finish ever.
Totally. I mean, it's a great result.
I think this reaffirmed who she is in the sport now.
Right.
Yep. And she did Big Bear at altitude. She lives in Utah. She comes to a humid, not even close to similar weather conditions race in Palmerton with lighter sandbag carries. She's legit.
Yes. And I need to add an asterisk to what I said about the heat. I didn't run the final. So if the heat was going to affect anyone, it was lap 2 and 3 of the final. Going up to the start line for second round was hot as you were standing there. You understood that. So I can only imagine that round 3 was worse. So I'm a little out of pocket saying, yeah, I don't think heat affected people too much.
Is the hat sunburn prevention?
Barbed wire.
Barbed wire. Scalp.
We could see from the start it was going to be a problem. Some people wore tops. I did. I put the hat on because people were losing hair in the barbed wire.
Oh, yeah.
There were 2 guys afterwards like, hey, did you lose hair?
Now?
Or some guy with an accent. He's like, yeah, I lost some. As we were crawling through, some guy next to me goes, hey, that's my hair. The round before just stuck in there. So as soon as I saw that, I'm like, if it nicks me, I'm cut.
You don't think you don't think you're tougher up there?
No, this is
years of
baby skin.
This
has only been exposed to the world for 7-8 years.
That's true.
It's the softest skin on my body.
You're the top of your head is like in 3rd grade.
So yeah, usually I wear a hat for sun protection, but here it was 100% barbed wire protection.
Got you. Lauren Weeks finishing 7th, made the final. I picked her to get 2nd overall, one of my top picks in fantasy. Right after that descent after Z-Wall, I was like, oh boy, it's probably not going to be.
She got heat stroke at the end.
Oh, was she hurting?
Oh, watch the video. Watch her last climb before that, like coming out of the barbed wire, heading into the rig at the end of lap 3. It's not your typical Lauren Weeks. I think the weather definitely got the worst of her there.
But
she still made the finals.
Yeah.
After doing one week before that was her first obstacle race in over 2 years, and she just came off a win in Utah, second place the following day. And to make the finals in a field like this, she did what she was supposed to do. She lost to obstacle racers.
And I haven't talked to her, but I would just imagine it's like, let's just see. Let's see if this is viable, if I should think about Abu Dhabi or, after Deca Worlds or whatever, and see if I can throw my hat into the mix. And, maybe if this is Palm Beach, maybe she is even better. If it's
or
Big Bear. If Big Bear, she probably fares better than this.
Yeah.
This hill was steep enough that if you charged it, you paid for it.
Now Samuel Bear, he was charging every time.
Even the business.
He's a monster.
He's a monster. It's a good point.
Yeah. I'm saying she can overwork sometimes on the flats and recover. You didn't get to do that on this mountain.
Her descending, though, is what I was saying. Even like if there wasn't a ton of it, that descent from Z-Wall to rope climb was enough that you could see who was comfortable descending and who wasn't.
She said it beforehand.
Oh, did she?
Yeah, she's like, I just don't like descending. I think that sucks to race on this fit. Like 30% of this race is going to be descending.
It sucks to race any Spartan race if that is the case.
Yeah.
How was that descent? Was it? I mean, it's grass, and
that one was smooth.
Yeah, I don't think that footing's too bad.
The other one got sketchy. There were dropouts in the grass. We were walking beforehand, and a couple of people were walking down on. I think who was doing that? Why I can't even think of his name. Goodness.
Content's amazing here.
This is really good. Weight Fest champ.
Jarrett Newby.
He and I chatted a lot while we were out there.
Champ.
And he goes down through the middle. He's like, don't step here. And he puts his foot and it goes down like 4 inches into the earth. And that last descent was sketchier, but the first one was clean.
Okay. What'd you wear for shoes? Did you go Evo Jaws? Are they still wet from the race?
The Pulsar SGs.
Okay. Did you bring spikes? Did you find that track?
Didn't. I was fresh enough to run fast though.
You probably could have ripped that 51 mid.
Do you ask anybody to go and run a 400 afterwards just to get their times?
It was so hot before the race that no one would have even considered it. We were sitting there like putting our shoes on to warm up, just dripping. We were soaked through before we even started our warm up. No one wanted a 400.
The weather sucks so bad.
And Rich, I went back, I looked, I ran 53.5 is my fastest post-collegiate.
Okay.
It was a relay split.
What?
I ran a summer relay.
I think we should run a relay.
That was 10 years ago.
At the wedding. Let's do a 4x4.
I'll be obsolete.
We can do that.
I pitched it to Kirk. Now you're fine. You'll be the anchor. It'll be like the tanker relay type of thing.
I'm saying I'll race walk it. I can't run yet.
So I don't think sub 55's in the cards right now for me. That was 10 years ago in spikes in a relay.
All right.
We'll worry about it later.
Yes, we will. We sure will.
Yep.
What else on the women's end?
I was going to say, we mentioned Lauren Griffith getting in as the last spot. Julie Best actually qualified, but then she was assessed the penalty later.
What was her penalty?
So she got dizzy heading into the rope climb. She steps on the step, grabs it, swings forward, doesn't let go of the ring, and puts her feet back onto the step again because she was just feeling lightheaded. And then half a second later, she resumes it, goes through it, grabs everything exactly what you're expecting to, completes it, no problem, finishes, and her time would have been in the top 8 to make the finals, but she did not make the finals because they assessed her a 10-minute penalty.
That's against the rules?
Yeah.
Stepping on the step again. Yeah.
Oh, we got to talk about the straps too. I didn't even have that written down. Remind me
later. I didn't go into that part of it because I figured we were going to do later, but that was, she completed it, no straps. Yeah.
In the briefing at the end of it, someone good, not that everyone there wasn't good, but like a legit podium contender, I forget who it was, said, what is the ruling on the straps
before the race?
Like before the race.
Okay.
He's like, you may grab anywhere you want. He didn't even say like, we'd prefer to grab here. He said, anywhere you want to grab away. And everyone kind of looked at each other like, why even hang anything? And so you saw some people did.
A lot of people did.
Some, I would say maybe like 10% of the field was grabbing the ropes where you'd expect them to.
I thought, you know what? If I'm going to suck today, I'm gonna do a rig.
At least you could then pop off at the mouth and be like, hey, if everyone was man enough like me.
Out of the rig completers, I was top 10.
Easily.
Sign me up for OCR Worlds.
Get him out there, Mammoth. You probably qualify. You think you qualified with this race? I think you just had to run.
I don't think so.
Let's sign you up. Nah, you're fine. I'll get you out there. All right. Over to dudes. Yeah, because Julie Best, I did see that they did reinstate the points, which I think is fair. I did like the way that a DNF is pretty killer in terms of the series. So I'm glad that they did go back and have a little more sense to kind of place them. Did they place them at the back? Where did they place Tyler?
10-minute penalty. That's
10-minute penalty.
7 to 8 minute round. You're not.
So you're
I whooped them.
You gave it to them in that business, in your athlinks. It'll show. Took down the 2022 15K champ
by proxy.
The following year.
I'm a world champ.
Sign up for Mammoth.
It's gonna be my IG bio now.
Mm-hmm.
Parentheses by proxy.
People will like it. All right, I'm gonna run through the dudes real quick. We had Kempson with the win, Ryan Atkins second. You wish. Manuel Defoe third. TVT, Thomas Van Tonder fourth. Hot Call fifth. Samuel Hebert sixth. Tyler McCreary. How about that?
McCready. Yeah.
McCready. I always say it wrong. Tyler McCready, seventh. Pretty good.
You mentioned him during the draft. You're like, what's he up to? And we're just like, he just performs. It doesn't make sense, but he does.
Logan Broadbent eighth. Your guy Ciro off of the podium. Streaks over. Then he did the super also not on the podium.
Back-to-back days.
So he's out. Streaks over. Balin Bean was 10th. Austin Azar 11th. Robert Killian 12th. Chris Marone 13th. Adam Beach 14th. It's worth just mentioning everybody because making that final is no joke. Making that final is no joke for that.
Who were some of the people who didn't make the final, just to go through that?
I don't have that written down.
Oh, I thought you have the results pulled up.
Ryland
they don't put the results all the way up. They just put the final on this. Ryland did not make it. Tyler German not making it. Jared
Brakken.
Not making it. BK. Basically my entire fantasy team.
John Howard missed it by one spot for the second straight race. So poor guy.
That's tough.
He was my analog for who I said I'd be roughly him. I don't know if it would have gone the same because of how nasty the crawl was.
By proxy, you did not make it then.
No, by proxy, I beat Brakken. So.
Oh yeah,
that's true.
Yeah,
you're also.
If you were capable of crawling without cramping, you were gonna give it to me.
Yeah,
Jack, you're a little tall, man. I don't know if that'd be good for you.
I agree. I'm not.
What's your crawl game like?
Mediocre. It's better than Shaq free throw shooting, but definitely not Steph Curry at the line.
Would you wear multiple shirts, one to protect you from the sun? Like if you wore a shirt, got scratched, you'd probably then get sunburn in that spot, right?
I can't afford that. No way.
Don't want that. Yeah, multiple shirts.
Absolutely not. No. Probably putting sunscreen on there just so it'll like nicely cut me and
sunscreen on the shirt. So like when it opens,
motorcycle
it kind of
jacket. Into that shellish on the back.
Yeah, wear some leather out there.
It could work, honestly.
It would probably be leather and a helmet. Full motorcycle garb was probably the move.
Easily.
For this.
I picture Jack in leather from time to time.
I don't want anything leather. But if that's what you want to picture,
that's not true. I want to see. You gotta wear that to the wedding, leathered out,
leather,
top and bottom.
Yeah.
So Kempson brought it, man. He was truly impressive here. It seemed he was the class of the field. Atkins, again, maybe he's a little bit rusty, but I don't even know in this format we were so impressed with Kempson in Jacksonville in 2019 with that win over a very stout field, and it was like pretty assertive. But I don't know. Is this his best win?
Very impressive.
I don't know if it's his best or not, but he was on a different level of everything than anyone else there. He looked the best. He was the best mover, and I think he was the best on every phase of the game he won. He was jumping off everything, all 3 rounds. Everyone else got dull. In person, he was popping off the ground all the way through. He was getting down the descent and then aggressively jumping off the ground as high as you could get on rope climb, popping off that, hitting the ground and bounding off. Like he was stealing seconds on transitions all the way through the race, well after everyone else had just resigned themselves to survive. He was on a different plane of existence than anyone else there. And
The
watching
Z-Wall
it,
game
I
is
thought
good.
there's only one person I've ever watched in OCR that could have given him any even challenge on that day on that course, and that would be Hobie. Hobie on this course would have been nasty, and I don't even know if he'd be the favorite. No one else could crawl. He moved so well.
Be interested to see VJ against him in that type of format, because I mean VJ beat him in Stratton, not that much different. I mean the crawling
Would
be an
VJ have
advantage.
struggled on that crawl?
He's a good crawler, but he's
good,
tall.
but not Kempson level.
I don't know.
No.
Prior to the
I think he
prior to the
figured it out.
final, Atkins kind of sarcastically but good-naturedly said to me, "Well, coach, what should I do in the final?" I said, "How do you feel you are on the crawl?" I said, "Are you the best crawler or significantly worse?" He said, I don't know if I'm the best, but I'm right there. Like that was everyone's level of confidence against other people, and Kempson significantly gapped them.
How much time did he take from him on that pistol, though?
Pew. Atkins said he lost like 12 seconds.
12 seconds, I thought he mentioned. Yeah.
Was he counting?
Even if it's only
allegedly.
8. Like you weren't getting that back on Kempson.
No. You're not
Kempson led
the
the charge up the first hill.
right. Samuel Abear.
Kempson was there.
Kempson was right there as well. Yeah. So it might be his best win. I mean, when we look at the all-time rankings at the end of the year, we're gonna have to mention this. It might give him a little bit of juice.
In terms of field, might be his best. When he does it pillar to post.
Yeah.
When he pops off for a win, he wins. It's kind of like, I guess, similar to VJ. VJ will slow play a little longer, but VJ wins, no doubt about it.
VJ just wins more often. This
VJ
is only Kempson's second.
Yeah. VJ
National
hangs
Series win.
around, and then when he picks his moment, he'll put 45 seconds on you in the final part of a race, rather than Kempson winning by 45 seconds, but it's over the course of the race instead of just at key moments.
Yeah.
Then Manuel's he's just good at this
He's the real
format,
deal.
man. What the heck?
He's the real deal.
He really
You want to
is.
know something crazy about Manuel Defoe?
Is this it?
This isn't the moment. No.
No. Okay.
He did not get. I'll let you guys guess. So he started racing in 2016. That was his first ever Spartan race. He's done trail running and stuff like that throughout Switzerland. When do you think his first elite podium was?
After COVID.
Also after COVID, because I see your head nodding.
It could have been
Got there at the
2021.
same time, maybe a little quicker than me.
2021.
Wow.
So he spent 5+ years figuring it out. He had like a couple of 4th, 5th finishes and stuff like that, but he did not get his first elite podium until 3 years ago.
Shout outs to
He's 42 years old. He was 40 years old when he got his first elite podium. Now he's just working everybody 3 straight races, doing transatlantic flights, sometimes transcontinental on top of transatlantic. Like, unreal what this guy's doing.
Never stop believing, old folks.
Yeah. Is this the most impressive 40+ season you guys can remember?
How old was Killian when he won the
40-year-old
championship?
world
39,
champions?
39, almost everybody.
I thought Cody won at 40 or Hobie.
It was 39 for Cody, Hobie, Zuzana, like in a 3 straight year window, and they've never won since. And then Hobie was 40 and he got like 7th when Hunter beat him that year.
Then yeah. That could be 7th, right?
We'll see how he finishes up at the world championship level, because I mean these races, this is the most stacked. I mean he seems to just perform well.
Woods at 40 was podium national series.
Was it? But also like Rylan and Tyler didn't make the final, which I know you got to run the race, right? You got to play the result.
They
for what
both
it
beat
was.
him head to head last time.
So maybe he's 5th here, maybe not. I don't know.
Yeah.
TVT, your guy, worth the block card?
Is it worth the block card for me to just stomp on you guys in the final score? Yeah,
that was
it
a waste. You would have won without it.
We didn't expect Rylan to not make the finals and Tyler either.
We didn't say without hindsight.
I don't care. I'm proud of picking Thomas Van Tonder.
I'm glad you used your block card. It was just an epic moment in race.
I'm proud you
history.
used me to scout the foreigners and decide who you should pick.
Oh yeah.
Exactly.
You're right. I'm like, you know who's got a good idea about this race? Brakken.
Sure does.
I'm gonna draft off Brakken.
Yeah. Whatever he does.
What was that? Who should have taken that? What was the replacement over? What was the vote
Logan.
on that one?
Look, so it was basically
So that was
a
worth 4
4 or
swing?
5 point swing. Yeah.
Wouldn't have mattered.
Do I get bonus points for him winning the prelim?
Who did?
Yeah,
Logan?
0 bonus
He
points.
did?
So
Oh yeah, he gave it to people.
he crushed everybody.
That must have been the second heat we didn't get to see.
He was in my heat. Yeah,
We didn't see much of that, I don't think.
we had a big heat.
There was stacked.
We had the
All of
most
them were
people, and Logan, Ryland, Atkins,
Tyler.
Veerman.
Logan won the first ever Spartan Cross format in
Jacksonville.
Jacksonville, the beta test for it.
He came out of the Atkins was like, I looked up after the barbed wire crawl and Logan's on the pistol. what happened there?
Yeah.
I mean, and he's a good runner. He can run up hills, man. Even though he lives in flat Ohio, he can do hills.
We were before the race. We all, not all, but most people walked or jogged up to the top of the course to see because they changed the carry. They shortened it significantly and put it on the other side of the course. The carry was maybe 50 meters long. It was so short. But anyways, we wanted to see it and then see the angle of the Z-wall, just to get a feel for everything. And we're all up at the top watching people power hike up. I'd gone hands on my knees at one point to get to the top. We hadn't started our warm up yet. And on my way down, Logan's just running up the hill towards us. No one else ran up the hill. Everyone else is saving their energy or started jogging. It was like, forget this. This is steep. I'm going to save it. Logan just smiling and chatting away, running, bounding up the hill. He's got something different. His
got energy.
running ability for where he lives is.
He's got good energy too. Lots of it.
Good energy.
Lots of it. He's not young either. I think he's about my age. Hawk Call finishing 5th. Good result. It's pretty
Hawk
good.
looked miserable for the second race in a row, but just stays in it.
Yeah.
He
was
gasping. He looks
gasping.
stronger also.
He's bigger. He is noticeably bigger.
Remember when I told you guys with 10 pounds? He told me he was going to do that.
Best ascender in the world.
Brakken just complimented. He's going to give you a run for your money for the best pump in a couple of years.
Impossible.
Come on.
Different.
I got old man strength starting to come my way soon.
All right, fair enough.
Big time.
Second best pump. He'll be on the pump podium. How about that?
By the time I hit
podium.
40, I'm going to look like Stallone in the Expendables.
Just veins.
All
Just-
natural.
Yeah, like I'm hatching a nest of snakes under my skin.
What else stood out on the men's side? I guess just like the story is Kempson over Atkins, right? Like Atkins showing up for the first time in 7-8 months. And pistol wasn't great. Crawl was definitely a game changer.
And Atkins was the next best crawler in the final. It looked like.
Yeah.
Imagine the narrative difference if Kempson's he flip-flopped on the way to the race and said, all right, I'm probably not going to race. If he had just stuck to that, the story would have been Lindsay and Ryan come back and win everything again.
Right. So
And instead, Ryan looked truly miserable in the final and still better than everyone else. He ran into a buzzsaw, but Kempson almost didn't even race.
I think that one of the stories, besides the depth of competition, which was fantastic, we saw international athletes, Thomas Van Tonder, and obviously Manuel Defoe again doing really well. But if you look at the top 8 results, 7 of them live on the East Coast or in the Mid-Atlantic region. And I think that clearly was a difference maker, at least on the men's side. You saw people like Samuel Hebert and Tyler McCready and Logan. Logan's done this before, but Samuel and Tyler have never been top 5, top 6, 7, whatever at a national series race. And this is a really good field, and they're just used to the conditions, and they have the skill set to do well in a course like this. So I think, yes, they have the skill set, but I think that being located in that part of the country paid off a little bit as well.
Noted for next year for the draft.
I have a lukewarm take on this.
Let's go.
I think this was the High Rocks course of Spartan.
What?
I think it was the closest balance we've ever seen to running versus everything else on a Spartan course. Because there's very little fast running, but the little flat that was there, you could move on. Downhills are kind of accessible to anyone. Uphill truly matters with engine. And then the crawl was the sleds. And so there were some people qualifying through to the second round and then going back and forth with people. Like I was surrounded by people at the pistol that I've never seen before in my life. I didn't know who they were. That doesn't happen out on a super course or even a sprint course. It was a really even competition playing field. And just like High Rocks, the best athletes won because no one specialized for this yet. But the crawl was the sleds. And it felt like any body type could succeed here. That doesn't generally happen out on course.
These are US sleds, not Hong Kong ones.
Not Hong Kong.
Yeah.
That was a pretty decent take.
You had a bear next to Hawk Hall. Like there's
Right.
that doesn't happen on a course.
True.
You had Balin Bean next to Austin Azar. Like this was the mixing ground. The course might have been dumb. The test might have been foolish, but it tested all skills equally. I'll give them that.
Don't we like it when stuff gets mixed up? We used to talk about how Isaiah just would hang with some of these guys, Hunter, who on the surface, you should not be able to in a distance trail race. And yet all skills combined, you see some crazy outcomes. Of course, the cream of the crop is the cream's always going to rise to the top. That's why you saw Kempson, Atkins, Lindsay, Chris, they did their thing. But having a little bit of parity is kind of nice.
Yeah. Yeah. If this was any other thing other than an advertised, fast, spicy, TV-friendly 3K that's going to revolutionize the sport, if this was any other thing, we'd be like, this is Spartan of old. We're not running, we're power hiking. We're not doing fast stuff, we're grinding. Any body type can. It was, from that perspective, it was a success.
What do we think? So the one thing about Spartan in general, just OCR in general, things go wrong. There's a lot of factors out there. Always an issue of mine. It's like whoever the most fit isn't always the one who ends up on the podium. With Ryland just missing a rig, right? Like we've seen him make mistakes in the past.
He might not have made the final.
And no, he would have definitely made
Even at that point?
He would have definitely made the final, I think.
He would have.
I think
He would have been at the
clustered
back
with-
end.
He was at the back. He was like kind of mid back end of that.
Yeah.
Of the top guys in that heat. But I'm pretty Jack, am I right?
He was around people who definitely made the finals, and then he just slid. It's like a fire pole, just slid off it.
No straps.
Ryland doing it the real way.
Paid the price. Too much integrity. Not good. Fudge where you can. Take your advantage. Talking about sports out here. But it's just unfortunate, right? We want to see, especially against this field. He was a returning champion in this field. Only two other people have won these races. He's one of them against Kempson and Atkins and some international athletes.
And second place from last race. Didn't make it either.
Exactly. So it's like, it's just what's frustrating in general about the sport. It's like, man,
I would
really
like
wish I could have
them.
seen.
I would like an optional retry for these. The penalty's sitting there, but you can retry if you want. I would like that to be a thing where if you slip off, you can go back, do it again. You've wasted 8 to 10 seconds and you're on with your race. I think that if you can't do it, like had I slipped off at the end, I wouldn't have wanted to try again. My grip was starting to fade. I would have taken the penalty loop, sure. But for him, I don't know why you wouldn't have the optional retry. I think that would help this format. Otherwise, you make a mistake and you're done.
It's over.
I think it would add excitement to the sport if he slips off and has to sprint back around and get back on and go through.
But at the same time, I mean, this is the sport, right? You need to be clean. You need to be able to do all of the things as well as anybody else. And if you don't, the consequence has to mean something. And
this has got him before. He has great grip, and from time to time he falls off a rig.
And he's definitely practicing.
Blue Mountain, that happened to him. He failed like Twister or something. Yeah,
but then he won. He still won that race.
No, the other Blue Mountain.
So he won the race that he failed.
I'm saying
the multi-rig.
Kelowna.
Yes, that
Blue
happened
Mountain
as well. Yeah,
he missed some Blue Mountain.
Didn't cost him.
He did. It was in the low festival area the first time down in the mountain. I think it was Twister or maybe even like Monkey Bar. It was a very something that no one failed, and then he ended up catching his way back up with everybody, and then was stretching when he started cramping towards the end of the race. But he could find a way to get back into any race if there's enough time. 1K is really difficult to do.
Oh yeah.
Of all the people we've ever had who from time to time will miss obstacles but are really good, does he have the best grip of anyone who's ever been prone to the occasional obstacle miss?
You'd think so, right? Like, and he's like, he does ninja stuff. Because who else are you considering? Like Woods,
Cody would from time to time. early on, Lindsay would
Lindsay
from
fell
time
off
to
stuff,
time.
yeah.
Kent had his yips with the twister for a while.
Miriam, no, she doesn't have
And then
good grips. She just falls.
I mean, good people who fail stuff, sure.
Yeah.
But he's the outlier in that group. I wouldn't even
Right.
consider Kent didn't fails. He just had the yips with twister for a little bit. Then he figured it out. But he's the outlier. He's the only one with really good grip. Like he was a podium until he was DQ'd at OCR Worlds
right.
on a grip intensive year, and then he'll just fall off some things from time to time.
And he's
which
still, I mean, this is really his second full season, right?
Mhm.
So he's still figuring it out, I
Yeah,
suppose.
for sure. Maybe he's a victim of his ascension rate,
Yeah.
Exactly.
but he's not failing because he can't do it.
No. Right. There might be maybe he's looking past
Just
things
focus.
sometimes. It could just be focus in the middle of the thing for sure.
And he won the race before. So if he gets in that final, he might be able to run his way back into it with 3 laps. It's just the side effect of in a 1K lap, you can't afford a 200-meter extra run. You can't run a 1,200-meter race when everyone else is doing 1,000.
No, I didn't check his social media, but I didn't see him make an excuse. Did you guys?
Did not notice.
No.
Okay, so he's been injured. He's had a cut on the bottom of his foot that he couldn't train at first, and then it got infected.
Oh, shoot.
And so he
He hasn't been
tried-
running for like a month and a half.
Yeah, he tried to run and couldn't. And anyway, he had a circ race the next day. He had a flight booked to fly home to, and didn't even bother because he's not able to run right now. So he was certainly at a reduced capacity,
Right.
but he didn't, to his credit, he didn't make a big deal about it. It wasn't all over social media like a large percentage of this sport would have done.
He made
Yeah,
mention
he
of
also-
not being able to run for a couple of weeks. Oh, I did know that.
Okay.
But yeah, so I don't know if you know how he would hold up over the course of, how long did that final 3K take? 25 minutes?
23 for Kempson.
23.
Yeah,
That's
I think Lindsay was
disgusting.
26. So yeah, that's 3 back-to-back sub 8-minute laps. Like
That's pretty nasty. Pretty nasty.
Yeah.
All right.
Before we move on, Rich, there is a new little thing. If you don't mind sharing your screen, one of the listeners, Scott Neth, mentioned if you guys want
Nice.
to do a little bit of OCR trivia. I'm thinking of just every single episode, just for the listeners. We kind of have the hardcore fans, and every once in a while I'll mention something and just kind of give it away. But I think
What are we calling this? What are we calling this segment?
I just call it race brain trivia. We'll figure something out.
Bracken, do we like that one?
I love it.
All right, we'll do something later, or a new name.
If
later,
you had
but-
come up with it, I might have liked it more.
Official,
Power brand.
factual,
Yeah.
official fitness
But-
facts.
Sure. But anyway, I'm gonna put a question on the screen, and the two of you are going to try to guess the answer. And this is about the race. It involves Ryan.
Is this going to be
Try.
is it Jeopardy style, where are you giving us the answer? Do we have to buzz?
I'm gonna give the answer next week. So you guys are gonna give an answer right now, and I'll tell you if you're right or not.
Wow,
Unless-
that is burying the lead there.
All right, never mind. Fine. I'll give you the answer after you guys can think about it. You guys have
But what's the point of this? Is this for us or the audience?
both. That's why I was gonna give it next week, so the audience
Save
doesn't-
it. Just tell us who's right.
All right. I'll tell you after the episode. How about that? Here, I'm gonna display this. You guys can think of it. Who has more National Series podiums, Ryan Atkins or all the other people named Ryan combined after this race? And I'm talking about Woods, Kent, Kempson, all 3 of them combined, or Ryan Atkins.
Rich Ryan.
Rich Ryan as well. Yep. Contributing there.
Put me in there.
National Series podiums, not just regular ones, but big stage.
It would seem like because of Woods, you'd have a giant chunk of podiums, but Atkins has been doing this for.
He's always on the podium.
Do you count NBC races as National Series?
Yep.
Oh, then it's Atkins.
I think it's Atkins too.
Don't forget that Kent has been around since 2015 as well.
He only has like 2.
But- Okay. So you guys are locking in Atkins?
He's got at
He's got
least
more than
3.
that. Yeah, he has one win.
Kent has Seattle maybe twice. He's got New Jersey 3rd place behind your boy.
Holler.
And then he also has West Virginia at least once. Yeah, let's
still
just go
taking
Atkins.
I'm taking Atkins.
Do you guys want me to tell you if you're right or not?
Kinda.
Okay. Yeah, you're correct. Atkins has more than all the other 3.
By
are the
like
numbers?
a lot, but like
I don't
10?
remember the number. It's not in front of me. It's like 18 for the other three, and Atkins has 22 or 23. So he still has a notable lead. Because pretty much what happens, Atkins is also on the podium when one of them gets it. So there's not really a gap being created.
Always on the podium.
Yeah. So anyway, there's your trivia.
Jack, official, factual, functional, factual.
There we go. So I'll try doing that whenever it pops up every week or two.
I like it.
Yeah.
I like it a lot. All right, let's do it. Barbed wire. What do we think?
Brakken, you were there.
What do we think?
And Rich, why are you even mentioning this question? Has there been some social media outrage, for instance?
There seems to be issues brought up by the athletes, not complaints. Just issues brought to light, brought to the surface.
Very interesting that some people reacted so violently against the idea of removing the barbs.
Against?
Yeah, like Kevin Donahue was really, really aggressive against it. And there were some other people in the sport that were kind of aggressive against it.
Yeah. Magida had a nice comeback on him, but
I didn't see any of that. I just had to stop reading because I was getting angry. So I'm going to stay away from the debate of it and just ask the question. What does it bring to the table? Like what are we gaining from the barbs themselves that we'd be losing if they were gone?
I think just consequence.
Consequence of what?
Pain.
I mean, like, do we need what is the action that needs to be punished?
Got to get that butt low. I mean, it does.
Like, it doesn't keep you from raising your back up, as we clearly saw.
But
yeah,
like,
otherwise no one would be cut.
It's like you said for a stadium race, like when it's wire or when it's like bungee, you basically can go right through it.
You know what Warrior Dash did at their World Championships? They used slat boards.
Yeah.
That's
you
what I
raise
was
too high on that, you slam into it.
That's kind of what I was thinking here. I was like, what if these are planks, wood
corrugated
planks or
pipe, something.
Yeah.
Whatever you want.
Yeah.
It doesn't stop you from going too high, but what it does do is it punishes you before you go too high. And I think Donahue made a point, and Donahue's my friend, he's my buddy, but he's wrong on this one. He's saying it was a consequence of your decision to intentionally go too high. Those barbs can stick up to a 1/4 inch or more below the wire.
Yeah.
I was constantly hearing my shirt rip when I wasn't touching anything.
Right.
Because they extend below. So no, it's not. Someone's like, wouldn't you agree that if you're getting cut, it's because you're cheating?
Yeah.
By trying to go too high. It's like, no. It'd be like an electric fence that buzzed you if you got within a 1/4 inch of it.
Yeah.
That's not pushing the rules.
No, another thing, here's the barbed wire. It's not straight like this. It sags. And someone takes your line, you might be forced to go in that middle section where it's lower. Even if you're crawling low and it would have been perfectly fine on the side where it wasn't sagging, nothing you can do about it. You're going to get cut up.
Well, and with those mounds, there were spots where there wasn't clearance. You either had to choose to go around longer to get clearance or just try to scooch underneath it. So anyways, I just don't know what it brings to the sport.
Yeah.
I don't think anyone's going to get HIV off it. It's possible. I don't think anyone's going to get a bloodborne pathogen. It's possible. But what we have seen is that people will get infected from it. And so if the consequence of it being there is greater than the potential benefit of it being there, which is we can't come up with a benefit of the barb itself, then what purpose does it serve?
Yeah.
It doesn't enhance the sport.
A lot of the complaints are from people who have never gone at it at a speed which is required to not lose contact. And there's a difference between racing and completing a course. And a lot of people, they think they're going really fast. They're super tired, but they're not going to be as fast as Atkins or Kempson or Lindsay or any of the faster athletes who are truly moving and trying to save time on it. And there is one way to go fast in barbed wire, and it's being reckless in it. And that has consequences. And I don't think people a lot of people are acknowledging that you can't avoid the barbs if you're going fast. You literally can't. And they've never gone it at race mode, so they can't put themselves into the shoes. And this also isn't the first time we have seen this. It was just very prominent because of how often people had to do climbs during this specific race. This has been going on for a long time. People mentioning we should get rid of it. I know we had a podcast earlier this year when we said, how would we fix Spartan or OCR, when that was one of our topics. And this was one of the things that I mentioned earlier in the year. Ian Hosick's been vocal about it. A lot of people have been vocal about it for years, even before we started talking about it. And you got to get rid of it, in my opinion. It doesn't bring anything to the table.
When people also forget, it's bad because it's uphill. You can avoid it when it's flat because you can flatten yourself as much as you want and you can roll or scooch. You can't roll uphill and you can't really scooch uphill, especially with the berm. You had to get off the ground in order to even gain purchase forward, which puts you into the path of the barb. So it was unfortunate timing in that you had the biggest field we've seen in years trying to make up time, and it was uphill and there were berms. So people are saying, oh, you're being babies because you didn't do well. No, we didn't do well. And it also happened to be dumb. It's not both or independent of each. Like they're independent, but it's not this both. They're not symbiotic. They're two different things.
Brakken, you were physically in that pit. If they had no barbs in there and you still had to go through that pit, are you getting through that 30, 40 seconds faster, or are you just getting out of it without a couple more cuts?
No, it would have been the exact same time because I was avoiding the wire for, I would say 9 out of 10 times it snagged me without touching the wire.
The fact that you said out of 10 times, like it's just over and over again as well right there.
Yeah, but I wasn't touching the wire. The barb was just extending below it, and that's what happened to most people. It's not that you're pushing up against it because you're trying not to. So I don't know. I just don't. I'm not one of those like, oh, it's so cool and so tough, and you got to be. No, it's just it doesn't serve a purpose. You can accomplish whatever purpose it serves in a much better way.
I agree. I think barbed wire is so stupid. I don't think it has any real place in any kind of race. Like to have it be this like dangerous piece, you leave the race, feel like scratched up, like you have to worry about these type of infections. But at the same time, like this isn't new, right? Like, yes, the format's new and having to do it 5 times is new, but like this is a Spartan race, right? Like it's, to me, this is almost the exact same thing as the double sandbag carry from Big Bear. People are just unhappy with it because of how much it sucked in this format. But it was so uncomfortable and so terrible that like they just didn't like it, it seemed like. And it's just part of the race. I think it's stupid. I think it's a dumb part of the race, but it is still part of the race.
I think it reached a boiling point though, because no one came into this race with unscratched backs. Like
it reached a boiling point because you had to go through it 3 times. Mm-hmm. Usually you can skate through once and avoid it. You couldn't here. And usually it gets lost in the mix on the course. You got 90 minutes to make up for your 5-10 seconds you lose here. It's fine. Having to do it repeatedly is why people's backs look so bad.
All right.
It wasn't because they were cheating. It's because they got 2 or 3 cuts 3 times in a row.
The cheating thing is absurd. That doesn't make any sense. It's like,
mm-hmm.
no, that's silly. But it's just like, it's like the spear throw. Right. It's just like part of what Spartan does. Like it's this aesthetic that they want to accomplish. And maybe for sport, like 3K seems to be what the sport part is. Mm-hmm. Maybe for that, get rid of it. Right.
Well, I think you're exactly right. This is Spartan. All their decisions make sense if you realize this is Spartan.
It's Spartan. Right.
And this is where it gets confusing for people because the messaging early on was we're creating a new form of sport that is going to be very clean, very repeatable. We're going to get it to the Olympics and they want clean, repeatable, and it's going to be really good for viewership and really good for speed and the social media generation and all that. But they still keep creating Spartan races.
Yes.
But they're creating it in a way that annoys the people that like Spartan race and annoys the people that want the new product. It's like if we wanted to start a new race right from scratch to accomplish their goals at the start of the year, it wouldn't look like this. But this is still Spartan doing it. Spartan. So you're still like, it's still Steve Hammond creating a course. Steve makes great, gnarly supers, beasts, and ultras, but he's applying super beast and ultra knowledge to a short course. And so he was like so fired up about this barbed wire crawl. He came up, he's like, this could take 3 minutes. Like, and he was pumped about it. And I love Steve. He's a great guy, but you don't want anything in a short course to take 3 minutes. So it's still just a Spartan race.
Yes.
It was its bio is what's causing us problems. The description of what it's supposed to be is what's causing us problems.
So Oh, go ahead, Rich.
I'm just saying that's what's confusing to me. And now
Mhm.
it seems that it's the culture in which this product has led us to, of just being unhappy. It seems like no matter what the outcome is, no matter what
Yeah.
happens on every single course, there's something that's like, oh, we might actually not like Spartan Race. Spartan Race might actually suck because of all these elements that are
Mhm.
here, that have been here for like a decade. But now it's like, oh, we might not like this. This actually sucks.
So I tried thinking about what is an obstacle, and
Mhm.
an obstacle in my mind, this is a running race with obstacles. An obstacle is something that slows you down. What slows you down? You have to get on all fours and crawl. Does it matter if there are barbs on it? You're literally stopping your full speed motion and having to get on all fours to go through ditches and crawl or roll or whatever. That's the obstacle. The barb itself is not the obstacle. It's an inconvenience, and it just cuts you up and stuff. But I think that the true intention of it is not to avoid the barb, it's to slow you down running. That's how I interpret what a barbed wire obstacle is.
Can
Uh,
we come up with another sport where a piece of the field's designed to cut you?
Could you imagine going over the hurdles or the steeplechase and they just have like razor wire there and they're like, oh, you just clear it. Just don't hit it. But
Just
everybody bumps into the hurdles, hits
just
them over.
don't be a bitch.
You do the bare minimum. Yeah.
An
Yeah. You do
obstacle, an obstacle is supposed to look badass.
Well, and that's it, right?
Okay,
It's the
Does-
optics.
confused. It's the
Does it
and-
look any worse having those trenches with just a regular wire? Like you
Soft.
zoom out, you have to, double tap your phone, pinch and zoom to even see the barbs on it realistically at that point. Like it just looks like a metal wire going across some crazy ditches.
Candy assed.
You showed me.
Everyone there was not everyone. Most of the people there were frustrated with the course that was given to them, but there was no shortage of people offering advice on what they think would fix it. And I think what it all comes down to, at least from the competitive side of why everyone's so upset with this offering, is that Spartan didn't ask anyone, didn't seek any advice, and didn't listen to what any of the people who do know this tried doing. They kept it internal. And I think that's what it is. It's almost like, had the athletes come up with this, they'd accept it. If the athletes had all gotten together and be like, listen, we need double carries. And then they brought a double carry out, we'd be like, see, isn't this epic? And Spartan's like, we're going to give you a short, fast, bang, bang, bang course, but we're going to make it slow and trudging. And they're like, well, we don't want this. So I think it's just the fact that all the people the product's intended for weren't consulted, and they all feel that the decisions were made the opposite of what they should have been.
They changed. I was just going to say real quick, Jack. They did change the way that they went about presenting this race from complaints from Big Bear, right?
They did, but they didn't ask anyone what to do.
They're never going to ask anybody what to do.
But a bunch of people said it. There were world champs who said this. There were national podium people who said this. There were series champs who said this. I've written them emails. I've offered my services with helping to design a course, or like drafted an email and here's what we could look at. And he said they just don't take any of the info. And then, so I think that's part of it. It's just that people see there are ways to make this what Spartans claims they want the race to be, but they're not listening to anyone who has actual experience on these courses.
Yeah, I just wanted to add one last thing on the barbed wire thing as well. I don't think people are complaining about the crawl. I could care less. You can make it twice as long, whatever. Make it as brutal as you want. We wouldn't like it, but the fact that there was a crawl through the trenches and stuff, that is not the issue. We could care less. It's not a tough enough issue at that point. We don't want to have to go home to Lisa or Amy or Audrey and be like, oh yeah, well, it saved me 5 seconds. You like my back? It's going to be like this from now on. By
Amy's
the way,
like, you know how much these sheets cost? Damn it.
Exactly.
It's like, look,
now we buy exclusively red sheets, so it's fine.
That's a good point.
Makes it easier. But I think it's just, you shouldn't have to deal with the consequences of something like that when it's completely avoidable by simply putting a tarp down or a cargo net or a mesh net or the planks, like you mentioned. That go ahead, have as brutal of a crawl as possible. Just a lot of people don't want to deal with the consequences, and the people who are putting the false machoism out there, like, Spartan up, go ahead, get cut. Like, you're not manly enough to do a race like this. It's like they're the people who are not at the front. But
Wrong. We haven't seen Olympus in a 3K format. If we saw Olympus, if we had to do Olympus 5 times, would people be bitching about it? I would be bitching. I'm bitching about it doing once, half a time, because I'm falling off
yeah,
and I'm not liking it.
Twister, haven't seen that.
But Twister is like
I think people are frustrated that they're not on course. Like Spartan they've always said it about Spartan that they have obstacles that if they were longer would be difficult, but they're not super difficult. The people who love obstacle completion or love OCR worlds, well, they have obstacles that are difficult if you had to do it every lap and had to do it at pace, and they're not using them. Twister's not on.
How'd your grip feel, Brakken, during the race? Did you get a pump?
I got a pump, yes, but half of it was from the barbed wire crawl. It's like I never felt great on the rig, but I didn't feel like I was about to fail. But if I had to do the final, that might have changed. But if there was a Twister and Olympus, if you had taken the barbed wire and cut it into 1/3 of that, and we just had to run the rest of it, that would have saved a minute off the race. And you would have put that minute into Olympus and maybe a hoist. That would have been a really nasty set of obstacles on course. So I think people would want that more than they wouldn't want it.
My point with Olympus is just how bad it can beat you up. Is that like
knees?
On your knees?
See, that's one. If you use it incorrectly, it can
if you do it, if you do it 5 times, everyone's going to be fucked up.
But if you put your heels on it, and you don't have to use your knees.
If it's wet, you do. You almost have to.
You can just go sideways across it without using your knees. Anyway,
I get your point.
You know what I'm saying? People would come out of that a disaster and would be like, you know what sucks? Olympus. And be like,
but you're messing up your knees anyway during the barbed wire crawl, so you're gonna get your knees hurt.
I think some people would have come out messed up. You remember when Ryan Kent tore his head open in New Jersey on the final barbed wire crawl? He sold out for it, kept his podium spot. He was just bleeding down. Bleeding down the side of his face, and they made a huge deal on social media how cool it was, and no one else was cut up. We understood he sold out for it and clipped himself. Everyone left with this one. But I think the difference is if the punishment is for going for something and then it clips you, I think people can live with that. If going through it punishes you, I think that's what people can't live with. And I think that's how Olympus is. There are people who come out with their knees raw, but there are people who decide I'm not going to use my knees and I'm fine.
We'll see you 5 times. You can get to that barbed wire probably.
Not all of us get 5 options.
Yeah, some of us get 2.
For the people on this show. Oh, Matt Davis, he made a suggestion that people get suspended from the show if they don't make the finals, and he wants it to be retroactively.
So I'll be out the next 2 weeks. Brakken, we'll see you in August also. So
that's fine. I could use some free time.
Yeah,
just me carrying the show 2 hours, no guests.
One other thing I'll say is that I think in a 3K, when you talk about it being because I truly don't think you can make someone care about a sport that's not exciting to watch or doesn't make you think they're impressive looking doing it. I think that even a slow sport like Ironman, you look at it and realize that's really impressive. I can't do that. I think people looked and thought, I don't know why people are going so slow here. And so I think you need to make the course faster. I think Big Bear was fast enough. There was fast, hard running. I think people would look at that and be like, that was tough. And I think what makes that occur is the type of obstacles they use. Like Olympus might beat you up just like this barbed wire crawl did, but you get off Olympus and you can run fast. You got off this barbed wire crawl and you power hiked up the hill and your legs were smashed. And then that was it. So I think one of the opportunities to improve here is making sure that the obstacles are challenging, but they don't stop you from running fast if you're good at compromise running, because we were moving slower than they moved in the Super the next day, despite being 4 miles shorter.
Right.
Because it was so demanding what you were doing that they actually created a slower race. And that seems to be like all the other things we could argue. I don't think it's arguable that you don't want a slower race for the 3K. You want a faster race.
Yes. And that was kind of your take for the double sandbag carry and Big Bear as well. And I agree. You shouldn't have 2 minutes of time in a 7-minute race in one spot.
Except they could still run after.
Yeah.
People dropped that and ran.
Yeah.
And maybe it's location on the course as well. Maybe if this
right into a downhill after.
Yeah, something different.
Come out. If you came out and it was flat, maybe people would be running a little bit more.
The course ground to a halt during the double sandbag and then picked back up. And this one, it ground to a halt during the crawl and then just stayed in sludge.
Yeah. The other thing you have to think about for course layout, they're using the same gauntlet 2-3 times this weekend for the longer races. So kind of are limited to that. So maybe in a super, it's totally okay to, after the barbed wire, just trudge up a hill, get to the rig, whatever. But in a 3K, it's like maybe switch the order a little bit at that point.
Yeah.
What do we think about the straps?
I think it's all been said.
Yeah.
Why bother with implements?
Cheap way out. Make it red. Can't touch anything that's red. That's all you have to do.
I don't mind it. However you can get through those obstacles, I'd be doing this.
Look at
shit.
that smirk.
I'd be like, this is great.
Yeah.
This is easy.
Yeah.
Hey, if you want it to be like that, just make it all rings and let people fly through like monkeys.
I think a lot of people
rope longer, right? Why don't they just attach like a longer
attach
rope?
the rope?
Yeah. Why don't they do that?
I don't know. It's again because like this is how Spartan does it.
Right.
If you started from scratch, you wouldn't do that. But because they haven't, they're still making the same decisions.
If you have ropes at different heights as well, like if you have 3 straight ropes, vertical ones, and then one of them's a foot higher, you're going to be forced to grip the right way on one of them. That could be a way around it.
Now, they did make it tougher. The ropes were raised significantly higher than the pipe. It wasn't easy to get up there.
People are doing full pull-ups to then.
Yeah. Kempson made it look easy, but it wasn't easy. In fact, part of the reason I decided not to go up there is because I didn't want to miss. I just stayed on the rope itself.
Yeah.
Got bonus points from that. Crowd points. The crowd was like, look at Brakken. Man of the people,
right.
Man of the public.
I think you just need to differentiate between an implement and an attachment. And if it's attached, if it's the first thing touching the structure of it, that's an attachment. Otherwise, you can grip whatever you want.
I think that was a Dave Claxton take to make that part barbed wire, right?
Yeah. That's a good idea.
That's not bad.
It's pretty smart.
Yeah.
Do it if you want. Who cares?
Still got your barbed wire in the course. Let's see who complains about that.
They've had rigs in the past, though, that you can't fudge. If you make the ropes all the way down to the ground, you can't fudge it. They've had Tahoe rigs that you just can't get to the top of something because like they have those things available.
That thin little, that one at Tahoe 2016 with like the thin disc and like the thin rope. Those are nasty at the end.
Yeah. Or the ape hanger in Killington, they do what you said. The whole thing is the rope. Mm-hmm. There's not a rope attached to a chain. It's just a rope. Mm-hmm. And grab wherever you want.
Oh, right. Though they have Tarzan swing, they call it. That's not.
Oh, yeah. Sorry. Tarzan.
Yeah.
But it's almost like we're just repeating ourselves because no one's listening.
I feel like the athletes know. They're like, I'm just gonna do it because it's allowed. But deep down, most of them probably want it the real way.
Like Kempson took the top every round.
Lindsay did
all
too.
That kid wants.
He doesn't need to.
All he wants is tougher obstacles. But if you're going to give him a safe way to win $1,500, he's going to take it.
Yeah, definitely. All right, well, that's never going to happen. Let's just. All right,
we'll table that for now. We'll talk about it next year at this time.
Brakken, how would you improve? You mentioned that early on. You said you were going to shelf that till later in the episode. You had some suggestions on how to improve this.
Yeah, I would make it so that the theme of everything is fast. Everything has to be based around speed. And so I don't think an uphill start is useful. I think it kills the image right from the gun. We had a top and a bottom with a full 300 meters flat to use that wasn't touched. So I think you start with that, and then you start with rhythm breaking obstacles like a normal Spartan race that everyone can fit through. Everyone can fit through, but starts to give little gaps, and then you move to the first narrowing. The obstacle, I guess, bandwidth of the obstacle, I think, goes up like a pyramid. So you start with rhythm breakers, and then each time through, it gets tougher and tougher to get through with the whole crowd because the crowd won't even be there by that point. I think that's the confines of how you start. And then from there, you ensure that there isn't one overriding chunk of time. There can be a chunk of energy, like a really nasty carry or a really nasty crawl, but it can't happen for longer than the running happens. I think that should be a non-negotiable, that the running has to happen more. then anything else happens. The other things can just happen super frequently. So those aren't specifics, but those are like the themes of how you should approach building a course, which is it has to flow fast and it has to flow unimpeded.
Do you remember your numbers? Was it roughly 50-50 for time spent on obstacles versus running at Palm Beach or Big Bear? You came out with those numbers one time, I remember.
I did. It wasn't 50-50.
Okay.
Sound a lot like DecaFit to me. It should be indoors. Should be very predictable.
Well, the first two obstacles of this were funneled down really, really intensely. Where you had at the first obstacle, I think I waited 4 seconds in round number 1. That's a lot. In the second one, I waited 5. So 9 seconds of waiting in the first 60 to 80 seconds of the race. Now, I could have controlled that by going out harder, but that happened to many people. So what would you do? You would have to start with obstacles that the penalty for getting there is losing position, not necessarily time. You could even start with a crawl, because you can make a crawl as wide as you want, right? You could start with monkey bars because you can fit 15 people on monkey bars. You may not be able to swing through the way you want, or you start with a hoist, because hoist is going to separate people out with time, but there's enough spaces for 15 people on there. It's almost like that high rocks cut down we did where you lose 1 person per round. I think that's kind of how the obstacles need to be. The first round, everyone's allowed to get to it, and how you attack it determines how you come off. And then after that, your decisions and pace throughout the race will stretch you out so that, yeah, you might get there and not have a lane, but probably someone's off it by then.
Yeah. I agree with that pretty much for the most part. I think this year they've actually done a good job varying stuff. I know you can work on bottlenecks and stuff, but it has been cool for 3 races. Like, I'll give them credit that we've had one at altitude, we've had one that's humid on a relatively low altitude mountain, and then you had a very flat one in Florida. You had some races with carries, some without carries, some with rigs, others without rig. Like, they've done a good job with variety. There's always been one single thing where it's like, this is the difference maker in the course that's gonna take up way more than 10-15% of the time, and that's what you need to avoid.
I agree with that. But even that statement is almost flies in the face of what they said they wanted to do early on. They were going to try to reduce variety, which none of us really want, but they just keep going at odds with themselves.
Just more fuel for the fire. Just be like, hey, this sucks, guys.
Yeah. And I'm even okay if they want a whole shot obstacle. But then the race needs to be short enough that you can expend crazy energy, or make it long enough that it doesn't matter.
Mm-hmm.
Like, they do it in all sorts of cross space, whether it's snow cross or anything else like that. They'll have whole shots, BMX, where you got to get to the first cut-in point, but you either have time to work your way through, or it's so short that it's worth sprinting for. Yeah.
It's like snowboard racing in the Olympics. It's like, if you're not over those first few quick bumps and you don't get in the front, you're not passing anybody.
Snowboard racing. I got an invite to this race that's going to happen in Malaysia. It's called Red Line, I believe. Dude, Marcus Friesen. Jack, help me out here.
Friesen?
Right. Friesen?
Yeah, that was Friesen.
He did.
You did
he
not, Brakken. Did not think that.
He did high rocks back in the day, I thought.
He still does.
Still does? Okay.
Yeah. This event, it's starts with the 400, and then there's like, I don't know, it's like DecaFit-y, but there's only one run, and then after the workout station, the last person, it's almost like an EMOM then. You get like 3 minutes to complete the station, and the last person who completes it is out. And then you line up for the next station, and you do the station, and the last person, but there's only one run. So I was like, I'm not going to be good at this, so why
am I going to Malaysia?
Yeah. Why would I be there?
Yeah, that's interesting. Now, I have a proposal.
Nice.
Is this 3K series the perfect time for the cloverleaf?
Yeah.
Would that be the most palatable visual product ever? Especially since with 1,000 meters of run, the leaves couldn't be very big. You could see everything from one central location and film like crazy. Is this the cloverleaf time?
So when you're saying this, it's going to be how I'm envisioning Cloverleaf, then it would be like heat 1 would be 1 leaf, then heat 2 would be like a second leaf, and then for the final it would be all 3 leaves, so you wouldn't have like barbed wire 5 times.
Well,
Or were you thinking every time it's?
I still propose that there's no 3K final, that it's just 1K, 1K, 1K. But if you wanted to,
Or it could be 2K, it could be 1K, 1K.
If you wanted to, you could just put a turnaround point and the runs are halved or thirded and the runs get longer. Or you could do a loop, but having a central location that you're looping around, it could be the most viewer friendly format.
And it could give a variety, because like that seemed to be the issue with the barbed wire, right? It's not the barbed wire itself 1 time, it's the barbed wire 5 times. It's the sandbag carry 5 times that has athletes like, no, this sucks. We know this sucks and I don't want to do it. So if it was varied, like, I like it. They listened to us for the 50K championship.
Cheer
Next
darn
year.
right.
Do you get your checks in the mail?
We got to wait till, I believe our contract was, we got to see what signups are. We're getting,
Okay.
a little bit of that.
We're still debating points on the pay-per-view. I haven't signed yet.
Okay. Well, let us know how it goes. But yeah, I think so. I think this will be I think it will be implemented in 2025.
If you had to create a race right now, could you make an improved product
Than
what we've experienced in the 3 races so far?
well, we're just not bound by the brand. They're
Out of their brand.
Out of their brand. If I could do whatever I want, yes, absolutely. If Steve Hammond was not working for that brand, that product would be better, right? Like it's just the Spartan race is what's keeping it.
You're saying, I want to
stupid.
clarify, because that could have been an insult to him or a compliment.
Compliment.
You're saying if he was unbound by Spartan, his
Yes.
courses would be better.
Way better.
I just wanted to make sure you weren't saying if Steve wasn't part of this, it'd be better.
No. Whoever
good.
is making these courses that are like,
Right.
here's our ethos, here are the obstacles that you need to do, here's what we're trying to plan around. Like, it's not working.
I think if you mash Palm Beach and Big Bear together,
I think this
you
is a
have
Savage.
a really solid offering.
I think this is a Savage product. If Savage had this product, it'd be better.
I think
Because
if you
all the courses are flat, like just fast, make whatever mandatory like retries and everything. I think this is a Savage product.
I think if you look at the course maps and on the surface, you're like, oh my God, epic barbed wire call. You don't know what it's going to look like yet. You're just simply seeing an aerial. You're like double sandbag carry, couple of uphills, couple of downhills, hard barbed wire crawls, that like all a rig with different implements, all in the course of a kilometer. That's a crazy gauntlet in general, but it's the execution of it.
It's the Spartan of it.
Yeah.
I think
barbed wire, super long, stupid stuff, like grindy.
As soon as I created my sim for this, I realized that you can't have more than 1 climb in a 1K.
Yeah.
As soon as you have
Jack was
2,
over here popping up, so you're gonna get like 1,000 feet. I'm like, I don't
You
know
could.
about that,
you
dude.
could. I
could.
How much did you get, Brakken, in your climb?
Oh, I don't know. I haven't even uploaded this.
This is gone from memory.
Point is,
gone
though,
from memory.
As soon as you have a second, let alone a third climb, it removes all the opportunity for anything else. You can't have much running in there because it takes so much time to do the climbing, and you can't place most of the obstacles at an incline.
Right.
So I think having a Palmerton setup, but using the top and the bottom would have created a better course than this up and down thing, because the up and down guarantees that you're really hamstrung by what you can do.
Yeah. I think another thing that you could do, where it has to be at the lower portion of the mountain, just because that's where the start and end lines are, just move the timing mats. Just create 2 new ones and just have your course at a various point. We could have started at the top of that first hill right there, gone a little bit up the really, really steep, have your double sandbag carry on that black diamond at the base of that. And, all you're doing is affecting 200 meters start and finish, just because it makes sense. We don't need the arches to signify that. You could just literally have a start line and just pick your point at the venue where it's a good point. You're only accommodating 45 men, 45 women up to that. Start it wherever you want.
And again, it's because there's races that Spartan needs to put on Saturday and Sunday.
Yeah.
Well, then it's order of operations. You build a 3K course, and then you add on the super and the sprint.
Right.
Like I don't think that wouldn't change the scope of the course too much.
If you're worried about the super or the sprint the following day, what difference does it make if you start at the top of that first hill a minute into the race, whatever? So how many races have a minute opening uncontested run? Almost all of them. So it's just adding a little bit of extra run at the time, but you could put it at a different start end point. And I'm not a course director. I don't know like what goes into it. This is just viewing it where it's like, oh, that seems like it should be pretty easy to accommodate 90 total athletes. But
so after all this, is this fixable? Or is this bang your head against the wall until you admit that it's broken and it's not going to get fixed?
They're trying new things at each race. So I think they're trying to find a way to make it work. So in that view, I think it is fixable.
I should rephrase. Is this a product that even if we fix it, people outside the sport care about ever? Are we going to have to cross that line eventually and just say, hey, maybe this isn't for the masses?
Well, Brakken, one thing that you mentioned, or that I saw people mention, and you were at the venue, that the spectatorship wasn't that high at Palmerton. When I was in Big Bear, I was shocked. That was like the first time I've actually seen a bunch of spectators. I don't know if it's just venue dependent, but they showed up one place. Palm Beach had no one. Seems like Palmerton didn't have a lot either. So if it starts with Palm, you're not going to have a lot of spectators. But Big Bear had a bunch, but it was kind of surprising to see a big drop for this one, considering it's a notable venue that people travel for.
Yeah, I think part of it is that there's really no hotels within 25 minutes of the venue. So people are having to invest an hour of their time to get there and back just to watch it. So you had some diehards there. But I don't know. I enjoyed the weekend, but I left thinking, is this the end of OCR in the US? Because Spartan's the biggest name in the game, and they're certainly moving backwards in their offerings. So like, is this something that can recapture? Well, their numbers are down across the board. Is this recapturable by Spartan? I don't think OCR is done, but someone has to fill the vacuum. How long can a company go on making bad decisions against their fan base and something that precludes other people from joining until it doesn't work any longer?
Did you guys listen to the ORM interview that Matt put up for the weekly show? So he had some new racer there. Brakken, you might have met him, Jacob Martinez.
It's from the Lehigh Valley. He's from
he's a 151 800 runner, just graduated college. He's going to grad school out in Oregon, and he's going to be on the Bowerman track club. So he's
Matt messaged me about this, and the way he spelled Bowerman was like Jack Bowerman. I was like, nice.
I didn't even say anything. I'm like,
I like that.
Yep. I'm starting my own club. But anyway, he is a high level runner, and he clearly has some ideas, and he also is a marketing major. And Matt asked him, what would you do to make this more appealing? Because he's been in the sport casually. He did the kids division for 4 or 5 years. Then obviously college, high school, he's not racing Spartan, but he's been around there. He knows some of the course directors. And what Jacob was saying is you need to make it so that it looks like what the elites are doing is just unattainable for the masses, compared to, just have the same course for everyone throughout the entire weekend. He also said, like, switch out the grips and the rig, make it harder specifically for that. It takes, by the time everyone's done with their cool down lap, you can have that entire thing done and ready for the next day. Just put all rings, whatever you're going to have for the super course the next day. But yeah, he said, make it fast and find ways to make it look like what the high level people are doing is completely unattainable. Like if you're watching people crawl in barbed wire, it's not that unattainable. But if you're seeing them, if you're seeing them move really fast in and out of things, that's like, I could never hold that pace.
Yeah, I suppose you have to be able to create a highlight reel out of the race.
Yeah.
And we would struggle to do that.
There were good battles, definitely, but in terms of appealing to the masses, it's hard to pull off right now with a lot of uphill specifically, I think.
The masses, like it's so niched that the only way that any of that was impressive, and even now where it's like this is only accessible for the elites, it's hard to even tell how hard this is. Or like, how impressive is this? Even from people like, I don't know, I've never even done it. I just know that the athletes that are out there are impressive. So I respect it, but at the same time, I'm like, if I wasn't part in this world so deep, I'd be like, these
Do
guys
it
are
now.
just chumps.
Yeah. One other thing that I think would be cool, and this has to do with like the series itself. If you did it so that the point series was Friday and Saturday, or Saturday and Saturday, however they wanted to do this. If it's like, all right, we're gonna have the 3K series and your typical super sprint beast, that series as well. Same thing. Palmerton, fantastic venue. For a Big Bear, same deal. Palm Beach, they could have made it happen. Like if you have that, you're gonna get everybody to show up, because chances are they'll probably want to do the one on Saturday as well. But I think that double dipping there might be a good solution for the future.
Mm-hmm. And then you should probably, again, have to reduce it down to a 1-lap final.
Yep.
To avoid that.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's just like the only two things that'll get people to watch or participate is doing the same course generally that the pros watch on TV. Like you used to hear, I watched it on NBC and then I went out and tried it, or it's so impressive looking. And you can't run the same course. There is no 3 course for open waves right now.
No.
And the course looks slow.
Do you think if we're looking at what the pros do, say that we switch sports, is it really impressive what CrossFitters do necessarily? Like if you're just a casual person who goes to the gym, are you looking at it, you're like, wow, that's so crazy that they did blank? Or is it mainly like the weightlifting stuff, that the raw strength, is that what the most impressive thing, or is it how balanced the athletes are?
I think it's all impressive. And they're all so visually palatable.
Right.
Because you just have these jacked people. I
got a couple comments about how skinny the podium was. You're like, well, there's skinny dudes up there. I was like, hey, this is the sport. But also, like for CrossFit, there's a bigger base of people who do CrossFit than who do OCR. So there's a bit more of an educated viewer who's like, they're doing 255 clean and jerks for reps. And it's like, so like they can comprehend how impressive that is. Where if you just watch it on TV, like first time I watched CrossFit, I was like, I'm going to the games, bro.
Yeah, Matt Fraser.
And so I think it's a little bit of just like the awareness of that. I'm not exactly sure. So you have to participate a little bit. Like I don't think people who don't do CrossFit will watch CrossFit games and be like, wow, this is great. But you have to be.
I don't know. I think that one of the things that a lot of CrossFitters dislike about the games is that it doesn't actually test what CrossFit normally tests.
For sure.
But I think one of the genius of the games is that they balance gymnastics moves and functional fitness moves so well that there's always something impressive. Like to the average person watching someone go down a deadlift ladder and just lifting 15 more kilos each time down, it's like, I understand it's all heavy, but it doesn't mean anything to me. But the next event, they're doing butterfly pull-ups and handstand push-ups and hand walking and ring muscle ups, and you realize I can't do any of those things, and they're doing it really fast. And look how jacked they are and tired. And then they go to the next event and they sell out again. And I think that's like the dynamic exercises keep it happy for viewers, but the fact that they sell out in every round and you can clearly see work rate, that's always impressive. And we don't have work rate right now. Palm Beach had work rate. Big Bear had some work rate. This didn't have as much work rate.
Yeah. I still think Spartan actually already has the solution. It's what they're doing in Europe. They're having a beast, a super, a sprint already in a different series. I think there are 4 races, so there might be multiple of one of the distances. And then they're closing off their European Elite Series with a 3K race. Let's do that. You get everybody there.
Just one.
You can make your perfect 3K course, whatever. They're already doing it.
And I mean, we are just so tainted with the decisions that Spartan's made over the years that it's like hard to be like, oh, maybe they'll make it better. But it is the first year. This is only the 3rd time they've done this race, So maybe they will still, if we're going to be optimistic about this, maybe they'll figure this thing out, or they'll just completely get rid of it next year.
Well, Atkins made an interesting post, almost tongue in cheek prior to the race, but he said, or maybe it was after, he said, it seems like the sport's been dying ever since Ian Adamson and World Obstacle entered the fray.
I think that was tongue in cheek.
Kind of joking, but kind of not.
Yeah,
he was nice about it, but not. But it was interesting that maybe as long as that hand's on it and there's an ulterior motive, we won't see a pure form of anything. We'll always have to serve kind of 2 masters on this. And maybe that's the biggest problem.
All right. With that, it was fun to watch, fun to see you out there, BK.
You can see all the names there.
I saw you looking yoked. Lots of names. What do we got on? Do we have any events coming up? What do we got going on on for Race Brain? What are we watching? I'm resubscribed to Peacock, so I'm
Did you watch Jakob's 327.14?
Yeah.
What? No.
327.1.
Fourth fastest ever. European record also.
I did not.
And he won by like 2 seconds. He's
Irish national record fell in 2 events.
1302
what was this event?
or something.
What was
1301?
Yeah.
What was this track?
College kid.
What was this meet?
I don't know.
Somewhere in Europe. Yeah.
Some meet. Was it a Diamond League or Diamond League's over?
One Diamond League left. I think it's this week.
And
anyway, everyone has like one more chance to compete before Worlds. So this is kind of the exciting time for me of the track season, where you're seeing people either go after a time or a tune-up, and then Worlds comes up, and Worlds is going to be so stacked. I can't think of the last time we had more people who are currently world record holders or world record challengers from, I would say, the 400 all the way up through the 10K. We've never seen this amount of just top world marks right now in it, ever since you had, like, in the distance events, Gabin and Bekele at the same time. We have, every event has a world record holder or challenger in it, I believe. 1500 meter women's, 1500 meter men,
5K
3K
women.
steeple was set women and men in the last 12 months, 5K men and women, 10K as well.
Craziness.
Yeah.
We've never seen a year
400
like this.
hurdles. Yeah.
400 hurdles. Yep. So we're going to see dynamic championship races.
Yeah.
I'm still working my way through USA's. Resubscribe to Peacock.
Yep.
USA's was a weird meet. A lot of people tanked.
No spoilers.
Yeah.
No spoilers.
A lot of people did well.
Great. Some people ran fast.
That's like
some
the
people ran
series.
slow. Some people won. Some people lost. What do we got on Running Public this week?
We just released basically my whole, what I felt, what I learned.
The expanded version.
Yeah, race recap / what
EP.
it means for how do you go about working on when you've seen a giant hole in your fitness exposed.
Ugh.
What do you do after that?
Just don't go back to Spartan. Just don't do. That's what I did. No, like
It's
I
the
see all these
same thing
holes,
that hits
and
me
I'm out.
everywhere. The same general musculature issue.
Be lunges. That seems to be hip flexors for you.
Are we seeing you at DECA then? When's the DECA?
I don't know.
We've got.
I'm not putting anything in stone right now. Okay. I'm never going to Pennsylvania again.
That's it. That's what you get. You better come correct.
It's Midwest or Florida, or don't come knocking.
That's right.
I think you'll for sure see me in Chicago for High Rocks in November.
Nice. Let's go.
Either making another run at a single time or running doubles with Kirk or whoever.
You're already in the doubles, man. You got that shit locked up.
Well, I got to get a qualifier for Worlds.
Oh, that's true. I'm hearing different places for Worlds like every day.
Really?
So Miami is off the table.
I don't know. I just heard a different place. Did you hear
the
that?
Miami race was canceled, but that wasn't the time for Worlds.
Correct. The October Miami race is canceled, and I think they're going to do something in February with like a fitness event. It's probably going to be outdoors, really stupid. And then, but like at Fort Lauderdale, Miami-ish was the rumor for Worlds, and I heard Spain, and I'm hearing Germany again. So I'm hearing all sorts of stuff. It could be anywhere in the world.
If it's in the U.S., I'm for sure going.
Let's go.
And for sure doing doubles.
Let's hang out.
If it's overseas, I don't know.
Okay. So you need a doubles time.
But I also need one good singles race.
Get back in the singles. Let's do it. Had a mile hybrid show. Brian Kent. We talked about stuff. It was great. And maybe a solo episode for next week. Nothing on Thursday this week. That's all we got.
I've been on the Ultra G treadmill a couple times, so step in the right direction. That thing is the wedgie machine, if you've ever used one.
The Ultra G.
Alter G.
Oh, Alter. I thought you said Ultra.
No, not the zero drop G.
Force is just up on your head.
Yeah, that'll get up in your grundle there.
Couldn't have described it any better.
All right, squad, this was fun. Thanks for hanging with us. We will be back next week talking about, I'm not sure yet. Maybe we'll just
Next big thing is grid games in like 4 weeks, so we've got some downtime.
Oof. All right. If you have suggestions of topics that you would like us to talk about, We're open.
Get to know your hosts. Just saying.
Jack wants to do the speed dating thing again. Stop stealing ideas from running public. I won't do it. All right. See you, squad.
Yeah.